This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Sunset Safari, your Sunset Safari of today. My name is Lauren. I do have Davi on camera, and it is an absolutely glorious afternoon. Let's take a look at how fantastic it is. We have many families joining us from all across the world: USA, UK, Canada, Singapore, Spain, South Africa, Switzerland, Mexico, and Italy. So welcome on board, everybody. Lots of Scottish people joining. I couldn't be happier. So it's a glorious day, blue skies, 27 degrees Celsius, 80 degrees Fahrenheit, I think. And we're actually racing to Galago Pan because there's a huge bull who's skipping. He's doing his water walk. Elephant bull, that is, because he's coming to drink some water and I want to see it. So that's why we picked up the speed. But of course, we're live and interactive. You must talk to us. You must send in your questions. The email address is going to pop up on your screen, but it is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And I very much look forward to hearing from you all. Tell us your age. Tell us where you're from. And, well, I'll do my best to try and answer those questions. Okay, we're almost at the pan, and I really hope he's there. He was on quarantine, and then all of a sudden, he decided it's time to drink. And off he goes. If he's not there, he will arrive any moment, I'm sure of it. Davi's not here yet. I think we beat him to it. This is a small little pan that has water all year round, and I'm sure this is where he's coming. But we do have a male Impala. Good afternoon, sir. Why are you all on your lonesome? I don't think this Impala has managed to gather any ladies yet. What a shame. So I'm going to wait for this bull because I'm absolutely convinced he's coming. But as I do that, we are going to send you across to Tristan to say good afternoon.
Well, Lauren, I think you're going to be spot on because this herd was at the exact place where Lauren is right now a few minutes ago. And I'm pretty sure that that bull Ellie is following the herd, and so I suspect that he will arrive with Lauren fairly shortly, and then maybe he'll kind of trail this herd along to where we are and join up, which will be quite nice. Now, it is a very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Tristan. On camera, I've got BK, and it is wonderful to have you all with us, and a perfect start, really, to the afternoon's proceeding. Lauren with an Eddie bull, us with a nice big herd of elephants. This is just a small section of the herd that's at the back end, and they're slowly but surely moving towards another waterhole, and I'm hoping that they might go for a swim. It's a fairly warm afternoon. There is a bit of a wind that's blowing, but the sun is warm, and so sometimes when it's warm like this, particularly in the afternoons, you'll find the Eddies like to go swimming, and so they might make their way down to this big dam that's very close to the lodge and go and play around. Particularly the little babies, they like to have a really nice time of it, and the sort of sub-adults as well. But these guys are not going to be moving very quickly. It's going to be feeding as they go slowly towards the pan, and it sounds like Lauren's bull has arrived at Galago Pan, so let's send you back to her.
Well, everyone, I was right on some levels. The bull has arrived. But I was wrong. He didn't take a drink, and I'm not sure why. He's got his water walk on. He's got a swagger. We call this a water walk. Elephants get very excited when they're going to a water body, and they tend to, well, it almost looks like they're skipping, but they can't skip. I'm shocked. Davi just burst out laughing. He walked right past the pan. At least we were right on his trajectory, but we've been absolutely wrong on his reason for coming here. So at least we got to see the bull that we were after this whole time. I have no idea where he's going. But that drainage is the drainage I went down to follow Mr. Tungana. And I put a very small hole in the car door. It's all patched up now, so let's not talk about that. But I am not going to go back into that drainage, is my point. I wonder if all the bulls are going to go to the other dam. If all the elephants, are going to go to Vuatela Dam. It really would be lovely to see some elephants drinking. He's gone deep into that drainage. I'm so surprised. I think he is on his way to water, but it just wasn't the correct water point. So we'll try and head to Vuotela Dam and see if any elephants arrive. The wind is really, really strong today. I have to say I'm slightly surprised. Davy and I spent the whole afternoon in Buffelshoek. It was absolutely wonderful. I got to see a property I've never seen before, and the wind was very, very strong. So it's sunny, but there's a nip in the air. Okay, so I'm going to try and keep up with this bull. Not sure if it will be possible, but Tristan is still with his elephant herd.
We are, Lauren, and I'm pretty sure Lauren's going to be joining us shortly. I can actually hear where she is. She's not far away. If the bull does join, then I'll leave the herd for Lauren to carry on. She ultimately found the bull first. And so if they do come together, we'll let her carry on with the eddies, and we'll go and see what else we can find. But it's so nice just sitting with these guys. They are such gentle giants for the most part. And if you can just get into a situation where you park a decent distance away and you just sit quietly and wait, often, particularly in this area where they are not exposed to any hunting at all, they become incredibly relaxed and they'll move around and they'll kind of approach you, and you can get this most incredible sort of view of the entire herd as they sort of move on any side or all sides of you. It really is very, very cool. Now here's a bull that's just arrived with us. So I don't know if this is the one that Lauren was following. Emma, maybe you can let us know if it is, but he's just burst onto the scene, and you'll see he'll be quite kind of forceful, particularly if there's a female in heat. Then he's going to be a bit of a pain in the backside, and he'll cause quite a lot of movement and a lot of disturbance in amongst the herd. If he goes after females and starts sniffing them and those kinds of things, then it can become a little bit testy with him, and you might find there's a bit of trumpeting and vocalizing as they try and kind of sort it all out. The only good thing about him arriving is it seems like it's getting the herd moving down towards the big dam, and so hopefully we'll kind of get all of them popping out there fairly shortly. But you see this female in front, she's doing something that's very, very interesting. We are going into a winter period now, and so as you can see by the tops of the grass, and I'll pick a piece of grass for you that's right next to me, and I'm going to show you two different grasses. So if you have a look here, right, these two grasses that I've got in my hand, these are grasses obviously that would have grown in the summer period when we had lots of rain, and you can see on the one on the right, even though these are two different species, you can see the one on the right still has a few little seeds on it, but not really much. They're starting to drop off. The one on the left is completely kind of bare, bar those few little seeds there. And so what's happened now is the tops of the grass have no longer become nutritious. So in the summer months, when the grass is growing, this is full of all kinds of minerals and good stuff and sugars and all the things that elephants like. But as winter goes along, these all drop off and start to die. And this becomes then not very good for the ellies. They don't really like it. And so what they're doing at the moment is they're picking the grass and they're going to try and eat this green bottom part where there's still lots of moisture and lots of nutrients, and they'll kind of pick that up. But the problem with that is that it often comes with roots, and roots have soil attached to it, and the soil is not good for their teeth. And so what they do is they pick it up and they hit it against their chest, and that gets rid of all the soil and means that when they eat it, they're not damaging their teeth nearly as much. All right, well, our ellies are also moving away from us. I was talking so much that they've disappeared, so I'm going to kind of carry on with them. I can see Lauren's behind us, so what I'm going to do is let Lauren take over and let her kind of stay with the herd, since she did find the bull first and we just bumped into the herd as it was kind of moving away from the pan. And while I do that, I'm going to send you up to andBeyond Ngala and Nikki so he can say good afternoon to all of you and tell you what his plan is for the afternoon.
So a warm welcome to all the kids. We just found this herd of Impala in this big open area. So I'm Nikki here at andBeyond Ngala, and with me, behind you with the camera, is Owen. So just focusing back on these Impala, I just wanted to show you just off left to where they are. Oh, and maybe we can try and get that red bull hornbill in. That's slightly left of where they are. So I just wanted to focus on this little bird here before we head back to the Impala. You'll see it's moving through the grass as we speak. I'm just going to try and focus on him. Very red bull. See how he's hopping around. And what he's doing is he's actually going around and see if he can flush like a little insect, like a grasshopper, maybe a stick insect if he's near any of the trees. But then as soon as something moves, he'll just go and catch it. Now, often you find them quite close to the Impala, because as the Impala move and they disturb something, they'll go and catch it. But have a look how he's just jumping around. And just every time he jumps, he'll stop and just quickly scan before he carries on. Oh, I think he grabbed something. No, probably a stick. And notice how carefully he scans the ground before he jumps. Like it's 2 jumps, and then quickly scan the ground, and then jump again. Now that herd of Impala that we were looking at earlier has slowly started to move, so we're going to try and focus on them quickly, because the sun is also, it's really beautiful on them at the moment. But you'll see as they are moving, there's quite a few of them that have their heads up. And then as they move, some will quickly scan, see if there's any potential danger. And then the others would move. See, just quickly scanning. Okay, no danger, let's carry on. William H7, that's a very good question. I would say, probably from some of the documentaries and that I've watched and some of the research I've done, I would say a crocodile probably has the strongest bite force out of everything in the world. I know hyenas are also rated very high, but I think a crocodile has been classified as the number 1. You can just see with those Impalas, like whenever they move and they flick their tail, you'll notice quite a bit of white, and then as soon as they finish that, they actually tuck their tail back in between their legs, just so that they, especially if they are in an open area like that, it makes them less exposed, especially if there's a lot of white around. You can see a few eggs and then tuck the tail between the legs. Now, often you find, especially with Impala or any of the animals that occur more in open areas, you'll see the lines on their backs or the colors on their backs actually blend in so well. Because look at the area, you'll notice that you have these different layers. So if you look at the Impala, you'll notice the dark back, slightly browner middle part, and then the white bellies. And look at the environment, you can see different layers like grass and then shrubs and then bigger trees. So they blend in very well in the more open areas. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to carry on, see if there's any signs of possibly some elephants and buffalo this afternoon, and possibly giraffes. And hopefully as it cools down, we might look for leopard and lion later on. But for now, let's head across to Lauren and hear if she has an update for us.
My bull joined Tristan's herd. How fascinating was that? So skipped past water to go and join that herd with lots of females. He's a very big bull. I think he was in must, from what I could gather from his behavior when we were watching him on quarantine. So he's clearly after the herd, not water. He was still excited about it all the same. So we are now going to go south. I want to check on Ribbon today. I want to see how my Rib Robs is doing. I did pop in this morning, but she wasn't there. She's probably causing trouble somewhere in the neighborhood. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to go the long way round, just so it gets a little bit cooler, and hopefully we can time it perfectly so those little cubbies come out. I saw the cubbies the other day with Trishala. I watched them, I could see them on the screen, and they're already looking like mini hyenas. They're not looking like black bears anymore. Their coat's going ever so slightly paler. Now, it's not pale by any means yet, but it's ever so slightly lighter than it was. So I can see that they're already starting to change so much, so fast. Now, don't forget to send in your questions, kids. You've got the first 45 minutes all to yourself. All for the kiddies, so do not forget to send in those questions. And then, of course, after the first 45 minutes, we open it up to everybody. Okay, let's hope I can find something exciting as I bumble on south. We are going to send you back across to Tristan, who's still with those elephants.
Indeed, we are still with the Ellies. Lauren decided to carry on, so we got to stay with them, which I'm very pleased about. So nice to see them. Particularly a beautiful, beautiful little spot. It's kind of on this little drainage line, or this dry riverbed that flows towards this dam that I was talking about earlier. And there's lots of beautiful big trees, and it's shady, and there's still a bit green from the summer rains. So it's a perfect place just to sit with Ellies, and we're sitting in the shade, so we're not getting too hot. I think they're liking it too, because most of them are just taking it very easy and having a little good feed in the shade itself. Now, what's interesting is you'll see that the one in front of us is kind of not really doing too much, but every now and then it puts its trunk down, and it's actually been playing around with another elephant's poo, which might sound funny, but in elephants it's very, very important. And the reason why is young elephants need to actually eat their mom's poo to help them with their digestive system. So they aren't able to process the grass and leaves and things very well unless they eat that. It helps to keep their stomach in good condition, and it actually helps them to kind of stay alive. But this particular elephant's a bit old for that. Most elephants that do that are in the first few months of their life. So maybe it's just kind of sniffing around just to see which individual was walking past at the time and work out maybe who that bull is, or maybe if there's another member that's around. It also looks like it potentially is finding some sort of a food item, and I'm just looking around us at the moment. It's not marula season anymore, so I don't think it's marulas. It could be fruits off the jackalberry to our left. They drop fruits, and these guys do eat them, but I can't see anything that it's picking up. I'll have to get my binos out in order to have a look at that. But you can see its trunk is kind of in the grass. So Sean from Johannesburg, my old hometown. Can elephants smell water? So yes, they can. It's pretty incredible how quickly elephants are able to pick up water. If you have a look in the driest parts of the year, in this particular area where Lauren was earlier, at that little pan where she was waiting for the bull Ellie, that pan gets pumped, and as soon as the pump comes on, within about half an hour, there's normally Ellies arriving at that pan. So whether that's audio that they're picking up if the water's actually running, or they're able to smell fresh water, is obviously a little bit of a debate. But they do pick up water long before others do. There's more Ellies arriving behind us at the moment. Hello, guys. It's very cool. There's literally elephants all around us. There's a little one that's also joining. Hey, little one. But if I just keep quiet, it might be a bit tricky to hear with the wind, but you can actually hear the branches kind of scraping on their skin. It's a little bit tricky, like I say, it's quite windy this afternoon. It's that typical sort of winter wind that we start to get at this time of the year. Not ideal. I'm not a huge fan of the wind. That's why I don't think I could ever live in Cape Town. But it's part and parcel of our sort of change of seasons. When we start heading into the winter months, and then again later when we go into spring, we get this wind that blows, and it can often be quite a cold wind. So sitting in the shade is not always the best thing. It's probably better actually to be in the sun at this stage. Isn't it amazing how quiet they are for such big animals? Ava, who's 7 years old, you're asking, were there many herds of elephants over 100 years ago. So it depends where you were, Ava. In the Kruger National Park, or where we are right now, funny enough, there was no elephants at that point, because but there was very, very few elephants, because most of them, unfortunately, had been hunted and had been shot at and been killed for their tusks. And elephants really only started to appear in the Kruger National Park, which is on the sort of western side, eastern side of where we are at the moment. They started to come in actually from Mozambique in the really early days, and the first sort of elephants were right in the sort of park's early days, which was about 80 years ago. And then we started to see more and more coming in, and obviously now we have a huge population in the Kruger Park. It's the largest population of elephants within South Africa. And so they slowly but surely came, and it just goes to show with elephants, if you actually don't do anything to them and you leave them and you let them just do their own thing, their numbers can recover quite quickly. And we were lucky that we got a lot of influx, like I say, from Mozambique. You probably find some from Zimbabwe also made their way down, and that's how we were able to recover our elephant population in this area. So within the Kruger Park, there are more herds now, but in other parts of Africa, there are less. So if you go into parts of East Africa, so like Kenya or Tanzania, some parts of Zimbabwe, Namibia, places like that, there's less herds than there were 100 years ago. It really just depends where you're looking. Also in the forests of Central Africa, so like the Congo and the Democratic Republic of Congo, those early numbers are down compared to what they used to be. Right, we're going to catch up with our ellies. They're still slowly meandering towards the waterhole, which is exciting news. I'm really hoping that they're going to have a good little swim. And so while I head there and catch up with these guys, let's send you back across to Lauren and see how that hyena search is going.
I really hope you get your elephant pool party, Tristan. I really, really do. I think they will. I think they'll eventually end up at that dam and they will have a whale of a time. Or should I say elephant of a time. Now we're going to the hyena den. So it's not too difficult to look for hyenas, because Ribbon, our matriarch, should actually be at the den. She should be. If she's not otherwise occupied or trying to avoid her babas, she should be there. Meadow, you are 6 years old and you are asking about the family group of hyenas. What a beautiful name, Meadow. Hyenas are in their own family, so they're part of the order. All animals are in different orders, and hyenas are part of the order Carnivora. And Carnivora is actually Latin, or derived from Latin, and it means flesh devourers. It's not so nice, is it? But it means those animals that eat other animals. They're carnivores, and they're in the order Carnivora, and hyenas are in their own family, a very, very special family called Hyenidae, believe it or not. And there's 4 different species in Hyenidae. There's the spotted hyena, who we are on our way to visit right now. There's the striped hyena, who I've never ever seen. The brown hyena, I've also never seen. And the aardwolf, I've also never seen. So I've seen 1 out of 4. So there's only 4 of them under the little umbrella grouping that is the family Hyenidae. In my opinion, hyenas look very much like dogs. They behave like dogs. Their body structure is like dogs, but they're actually not closely related to dogs at all. They're more closely related to cats if you had to choose between the two. But still, they're not even that closely related to cats. They're related to mongoose. So if I see some mongoose, we'll put them on camera for you so we can also show you what a mongoose looks like. That ellie dung is nice and fresh. Amelia, you are 8 years old. Hi, Amelia. Are hyenas really sneaky? I don't think so. I really, really don't think so. Hyenas have a terrible reputation. I'm sure if you were to ask these Impala, they would say yes. But I'm going to say no. I'm going to stop and say hello to these boys. These are the boys that we saw yesterday, Davy. They seem to have formed a bachelor herd, which is rather bizarre. We've got some young boys and then some older boys. You can tell by their horns. So I don't think hyenas are sneaky, but the reason people maybe think that they are is because they scavenge. Okay, mister. And what scavenging means is that they steal from other animals. So they don't make the kill or the hunt themselves, but they'll go up to a leopard or another hyena and they'll steal from them. And this is called scavenging. And it has a rather negative sort of understanding in the animal kingdom, but I think it's very resourceful. You don't have to do the hard work. You don't have to do the hunt. You just need to make sure you get your timing right and you watch your back. You can go in and steal. So I think that's why people think they're sneaky, but they're not. They're actually incredibly intelligent animals. They have a really complicated social structure. They're very emotional, and I think they are just absolutely fantastic. So hopefully Ribbon will be there, and the next time you see me, I will be with my not so sneaky hyena, but I think Tristan is still with his big bull elephant.
Well, I'm not sure I would describe ellies as sneaky either, Lauren. I think they also, in the same bracket as hyenas, are not sneaky animals, but incredibly clever ones. And therefore makes them appear sometimes sneaky because of how calculated they can be and how they're able to figure things out and do naughty things. I once worked in a place where one elephant in particular, was very naughty. It was a big female, and we used to have a fence around our camp. And the camp entrance had a boom gate, so like this metal bar that would close over the road, and it had a chain on it. And then there was also behind that an electric fence, but the electric fence had little handles that you could unclip so that you could drive through. And this female elephant, and also a bull elephant, there was also a male that learned this, they learned how to take the chain off of the little metal pole, which is already amazing in its own right, because us as people used to struggle to get that chain off. But it would use its trunk and lift the chain off. Then it would pick up the boom with its trunk and lift it up, and then it would walk and it would let go of the boom, and the boom would then close onto its back, and it would slowly walk, and the boom would then close behind it. And then what it would do is it would take its trunk and it would go to where the little rubber handles were of the fence, and it would take those off like we would as humans and then walk through. And we could never really work out how they were getting in, because every time we would go, the boom would be closed as though they hadn't gotten in that way. And it was only once when we saw them actually doing it that we figured out this is how they were getting in. So it makes them appear sneaky, but actually they're just very, very intelligent. But it was amazing to watch how they were able to use this trunk, just like we would use our hands to be able to unclip the fence and move. But as you can see, our ellies have just arrived at the edge of the waterhole, so I'm hoping we're going to see them playing. They slowly but surely kind of coming towards the edge of the water. Most of them are still feeding at this stage, so there's not that mad rush just yet to get to the water itself and start spraying that you sometimes see when it's very, very hot. So, Luke, this is a very, very good question, because a lot of people are asked this question, but you're asking about the tusks and what they're used for by elephants. And so the elephant's tusks are very, very important for two main things. One is to be able to feed, which is probably the most important. So what they do with their tusks is that they will use them to break off bits of bark off a tree. Sometimes they'll use them if they've got a root in the ground and they can't get the root out, then they put the tusk there, and then they use that big strong head to break the root and then be able to pull it out the ground. And so food is a huge part of what the tusk is used for. The other thing it's used for is for males to be able to test each other for strength. So they come together and those two tusks kind of get pushed together, and a male with much bigger, stronger tusks is often going to be able to push away another male, because the other male is going to be scared of being hurt. And so these big tusks are able to intimidate as well as to kind of push away another male, and that means that he can then be able to have babies with the girls. So it's an important thing for elephants, and it's why the male's tusks are generally a lot bigger and thicker than what you see on the female's tusks or the girl's tusks. So yeah, that's basically what they used for. But this is really, really Amazing. These two are busy pushing each other. What are you two doing? Are you being naughty? You silly. So this is typical of elephants when they start playing around, and often it's around water that it starts. We've also got one in front that is pushing another one, and their birds, I'm sure, are going to get chased at some point. It's magical just to sit amongst them. But it sounds like an absolute elephant bonanza this afternoon, because it sounds like Lauren has also got Ellie's on her side, and hopefully her little ones are just as playful as ours.
Well, everyone, I am on the road to the hyena den, and unfortunately there's a roadblock or two, or possibly three. We have a lot of elephant bottoms. They're very busy eating, you may be able to hear, and I'm not going to be able to get past unless we go a very long way round. We're stuck here, which means you're going to have to keep watching and watching until we can finally make it to Ribbon. You see what I did there? This herd is huge. Lots of youngsters, lots of babies. All different sizes. Ariana, you are 7 years old and you are asking, are elephants really dangerous? Well, Ariana, it depends what you're doing. If I was to jump out of the car and walk towards this herd, then they would all react. They would not be happy to see me. They would all be scared. And yes, they could potentially be dangerous because I would be putting myself in danger. But if you're really, really careful and you understand how to be around elephants, you can read their behavior, you spend a lot of time with elephants, then I wouldn't say they are dangerous. But you've always, always got to err on the side of caution. You've got to be really, really, really careful and not get too complacent with elephants. Give them space. Acknowledge the conditions. It's very windy today. Read their body language. Watch the situation. Sometimes with elephants, they can display what is called displacement anger. And what that means is they may have had an argument with one another. So they may be very upset with each other. But because they're so angry, they turn around and they take it out on you. And we call this displacement anger. So you've always got to make sure that you don't put yourself in a situation like that. And that's why the guides out here are trained. We're trained to make sure that we don't end up in any dangerous situations. Hello, you. This looks like a cheeky teenager to me. Small tusks. You know, we've got a clear route here to the den. I think these elephants are going to walk right past the hyena den. I wonder if Ribbon is there. Let's see. Imagine if we could see the elephants walking right past Ribbon. Oh, okay, hopefully Ribbon's there, everyone. As I make my way to the hyena den, I'm going to send you back across to Tristan and his elephants.
Well, it seems like Lauren's elephants are far more active than what ours are. Ours seem to be taking it a lot easier, and there's not very much movement going on, bar trunks on the ground feeding. And I'm sure they are loving this little section that we're in, because this area was flooded until recently. It's only just starting to dry out. So there's beautiful green vegetation, which will be full of nutrients and good things. And so they're absolutely loving kind of eating it. And you can see all of them have kind of got their trunks down. This one in front is making sure all the sand and soil is off, and then pops it in its mouth. And you can see the vegetation that they're eating is very, very green and got a thick root. Now, thick roots generally have lots of nutrients in them and lots of water, and so it's a nice thing for elephants to eat. They like eating those things, and so they're going to make use of it now, because in the next few months, as the temperatures drop and the amount of sunshine becomes less and the days get shorter and the water starts to recede, this kind of food is going to disappear, and then they've got to start to eat bark and roots more than they're going to be eating nice big green succulent leaves or nice kind of succulent roots that are on the top of the ground. So it's a time of plenty for them, and they need to make use of it before it starts to disappear. And it's amazing just to sit with these guys. This herd is super relaxed. They haven't even batted an eyelid at us at all. And I'm surprised because when that bull arrived that Lauren was following earlier, normally that creates a bit of a kind of disruption or a bit of a mess within the herd. You'll find that different individuals start to move around, and there's often grumbling and trumpeting like you heard with Lauren. But this particular bull just kind of came in, and everybody seems to be super relaxed with his presence, which is great. It means that for us, we can also be a part of the herd, and we don't have to worry too much. As Lauren was saying just now, sometimes with Ellies you've got to be a little bit careful, because they might not be angry with you, but if there's something else that disturbs them, then they might panic and they might run in a certain direction, and if you're in their way, well, they're going to then maybe take out their frustration with you. So you always have to be a little bit careful and always position yourself so that you potentially can move away if something does change. And if there's bull elephants or male elephants in the group, then you have to always be careful of what you do. Now, Dottie, you're asking, why do elephants live in herds? So generally it's only the girl elephants that live in herds. The boy elephants, they only stay until they're about anywhere between sort of 12 and 15 years old, and then they can go off on their own or join up with other boy elephants for a little bit. But the reason that the girl elephants stay together is because they have babies, and baby elephants are very small when they're born, and so they can be hunted by things like lions or leopard, hyenas. And so to be in a group together means that they're able to protect their babies much better. They are able to defend the little ones, and as a group keep the herd nice and safe. And so that's why you often find, look at this one chasing the bird in front. So there's a little blacksmith lapwing that's in front of it that is, I'm sure, trying to keep these guys away from eggs. They often do have eggs on the ground, and elephants unfortunately squash the eggs sometimes, and so they try and do all kinds of things, and the little baby Ellies love chasing them. They like to show how big and strong they are, and so often find them kind of chasing the lapwings around. But this particular lapwing looks as though it's actually looking for food that the elephant might be disturbing. So what's happening is when these elephants move across this grassy area, they're going to kick up little insects, and they're going to move insects by pulling up bits of grass, and that then opens an opportunity or gives the chance for these little birds to come in and grab those insects. So sometimes you will find them around the feet of them, but the Ellies don't particularly like it, and generally try and chase them away. Okay, well, we'll carry on sitting here. It's just the most beautiful, peaceful scene with the blue water and green grass and these peaceful Ellies feeding. But it sounds like Nicky did not want to be left out up north, and he's found an Ellie of his own.
I don't know if everyone saw that, but that elephant, so there was a dead branch that was laying down over that big patch of grass and trees, or little scrubs, and an elephant actually pulled it over so he can get to that lush green grass, or not green grass, but the taller, probably more sweeter grass. You can see his tusks are also dirty, so he probably went to the water early on today to have a drink. But I'm glad we're not left out. I'm glad all of us here at andBeyond, Ngala and at Djuma were able to find some elephants. But I wanted to get back to this morning. Gabriella, age 11 from Australia, asked me a very good question in regards to skin diseases in elephants. And I said, I'll go and have a look and see if I can find some more information. So I went and I tried to do a bit of research, but I wasn't too successful on that. So I just wanted to know, let her know that I have tried to do a bit of research, and I'll try and do more research on it and see if we can get some more information. But you can see with this elephant there is, he's all by himself, so it's most likely a bull. And don't know if he probably came from the water a little bit early, or if he's on his way to water, and as he came past this open area with the tall grass, he just flicked that branch over to get to some of that grass. See how he's just hitting it against his chest just to try and get rid of the sand, and then from there into his mouth. You can actually see, if I take my binoculars, that there is quite a lot of green in there. Oh, let's just see what he's going to do with that branch. It's so interesting. He's actually just moving the branch to get to the grass underneath. Just have a look. Let's see if he pulls out. Oh, there we go. There's the grass coming out. And you'll notice, the area around him, it's very dry, but that's the only section where there's a bit of green grass. So he's very, very smart. Just pulling it over. He knows all the good areas to go and look for some of the sweeter grass. Maya H10, I would say probably the main predator for elephants in the wild will be lions. So there are some places, in Botswana there's a place called Savuti, Savu, and they, sorry, I think I got confused there with the names. It's, just give me a minute to think about it. But there's a pride of lions, and they specialize in hunting elephants, and it's a pride of 34 lions that specialize. And it's not elephants this big, it's actually smaller elephants, babies up to maybe 6-7 years old. But with this elephant bull, the only other possible danger to him would be other elephant bulls. Because often when they do fight for females, it could be quite a harsh fight, even to death. So I thought about it again. It's not Tsavo. Tsavo's up in Kenya, and that's where they found the 3 man-eaters of Tsavo. There was a very interesting book written by a guy called Colonel John Patterson, but it was Savuti in Botswana where you find that pride of lions. Have you noticed, since we've gotten here, he's just been feeding, and as he's moving, you'll see him taking his trunk, probably smelling the grass, and then from there on, just grabbing it, twisting around, and then putting it into his mouth. You might even see now, there's a little shrub that he just picked. There we go, in his mouth. Probably found a nice patch there. See how he's using his trunk as almost a hand, and he grabs hold of it, he'll twist it to get more grip, and then break it off. And you'll see sometimes if he can't break it off, he'll actually use his foot and then kick the vegetation to get it loose so that he can eat it. But for now, we'll spend some more time with him. If he starts moving off, we'll probably carry on with our drive. But for now, let's head across to Tristan with also his herd of elephants.
Indeed, we are still with our Ellies. Like I said, it's been a bit of an elephant extravaganza this afternoon, with all of us having an Ellie at some point during the course of the safari. So that's been really very, very pleasant. But I think we've got the most beautiful view at the moment. There's kind of greens of the edge of the water where there's still this vegetation that is healthy, the blue of the water itself, and then these dead leadwoods that are kind of spread through the water makes for an absolutely beautiful scene. And it's amazing to see it like this because, for the last 4 or 5 years, in fact longer, since 2012, this waterhole hasn't quite looked like this. It hasn't been as full, and so it's a really beautiful scene to kind of see Ellies on the edge of a very full Gari Dam, that's for sure. So super exciting. Now, of course, the kids section of our drive is finished, so that means all of you are welcome to ask as many questions as you want. And you remember, you can do so on hashtag WildEarth, or you can just post it to @FC on the YouTube chat stream, and we'll try and answer as many as possible. Certainly, like I say, an elephant-full drive for the kids today, that's for sure. Right, well, I'm going to sit here and see if these guys are going to kind of come down to the water a little bit more than they have. It's only been the youngsters so far, and while we're patient and wait, it sounds like Lauren is having another close encounter with an Ellie, and let's see who it is this time.
The whole herd is right in front of us. We're at the Hyena den, everybody. Ribbon is not here, but the whole herd has made their way to the Hyena den. Can you believe it? There's so many of them. I knew it. I knew they were going to end up here, but But sadly, Ribbon's not here. And it's not because of the elephants. Can you hear how noisy they are? Look at that youngster dog. This is so magical. They're stirring up so much dust. It's flying right into my face. I may have to sneeze. Thank you, Davy. Just as I have my sneeze right here. It's coming soon. See, I just want to do a little comparison here between this mama and her youngster, the two standing side by side. Look at the ability of the mama to move her ears right forward and right back. But if you look at the youngster, this youngster's probably around a year, still struggling to quite maneuver the ears in the way that the adults do. It's moving them, but it's not quite got that remarkable way of moving them in sync together right to the front and right to the back. The youngsters often move their ears separately. They haven't quite got the technique to a fine art. Isn't that right? Dust and sand. Gizmo, fantastic question. Now there's quite a few ways to go about this. Elephants, just purely judging by the size of their eyes in comparison to their skull, tells you something straight away. It tells you that vision is not their most dominant sense. They can see, but they don't rely on vision. If they did rely on vision, their eyes would be much, much, much bigger. So this tells you that they most likely have another sense that they can rely on instead of vision. And of course, we know that they do. We know that they have vocalizations that are out of the human range that they can hear. And we also know that they can feel vibrations in the ground. They've got very, very specialized cells on the bottom of their feet. They can feel the vibrations and understand a lot about their environment. Now, the eyes are said to be the same size as humans, roughly. And look at the size of our skull relative to the size of our eyes. We are highly visual animals. So if an elephant's eyes are roughly the same as humans, roughly, then it tells you straight away they've got quite poor eyesight. They're said to only really be able to see 50 meters in front of them, and they're slightly short-sighted. They also have a blind spot, same as humans do. So they don't rely on their eyesight. So fantastic question, Gizmo. They rely on lots of other senses. I think this is a pregnant female. I wonder if this is a heavily pregnant female. I just saw a little movement in her sides. She bullied squeeze out a lot from the side, more so than other elephants. Sometimes you can see the babies kick. It's incredible. Something's moving. Do you see it, Tom? Something was moving in that elephant's side. I don't know where to look. We've just got elephants everywhere. They're very relaxed when they do know that we're here. There's no way that this herd don't know that we're here. They've seen us. They've heard us a long time ago. I'm surrounded in this dust and sand. There's a lot of little ones. Erica, great question. Elephants have lots of wrinkles for a reason. African elephants are actually a lot more wrinkled than their Asian counterparts, and that is because it holds in water. So water is scarce in winter here, and it can be very, very hot. The temperatures are very hot right now, and water can be hard to come by. So when they do find water, especially when they go swimming, they can actually hold water in their wrinkles and mud, anything moist and anything cold, and it assists in cooling them down over longer periods. And it's said to help the elephant hold up to 5 to 10 times more water than they would if they had normal smooth skin. So it's an adaptation to the hot, arid and dry environment. Oh, what an amazing day for elephants, as I believe Tristan's herd are finally having that drink.
Indeed, it is an amazing day for Ellies, and our herd is drinking. As you can see, they have all lined up. I don't know why they've decided to drink from this particular spot. It looks like the most awkward spot to drink on the entire sort of edge of the dam. It's incredibly steep, as you can see, and they kind of standing just on the precipice of the edging and trying to get to the water, and the young ones are having a little bit of a tough time of it. I would have thought they would have come around to kind of where we are, which would have made life a lot easier for the little ones, but well, maybe that particular spot has got the best water. It is incredibly picturesque, you're right, Emma, and it's nice just to have them all kind of in a row like this, drinking. And this is only half the herd. Like I say, it's quite a big herd, this. The rest are still further back, well, maybe not half, but it's not the entire herd that's sitting here drinking. There's still quite a few of them that are to come, but I recognize the one female from this particular herd. If you see, she's kind of more towards the front. She's got a very long right tusk and a slightly shorter, more kind of curved left tusk that comes in towards her trunk. And we see her quite regularly on Djuma. And she's got, like I say, a nice sized grouping normally with her, so it's nice to see her again. That long straight right tusk is quite indicative. There's not many females that have that. There's one other female that we see that's got a nice long straight left tusk. So you're saying they drink here quite often. It's interesting though. I mean, as much as it's a nice sort of picturesque spot, and it's nice because obviously the dam cam is right here, it just surprises me. It just seems very, very steep for them to be drinking. I would have expected, like I say, for them to drink closer to where we are at the moment, which is a nice kind of flattened area. The water quality should be of similar well, it should be similar is probably a better way of saying it, but I don't know why. Maybe they just feel more comfortable being there. I don't know. When it dries out where they are at the moment, it's actually quite steep. It comes down quite a lot towards the middle of the pan. Good place for bull elephants to drink, but not so much for the little ones. But these ones on the right is so nice. As they're dropping the water, you can see the light is just catching the little droplets. Beautiful. It's a pity this wasn't about half an hour later, because the light here would have been absolutely spectacular. We would have had that incredible golden backlight coming through, which would have been quite nice. Now, I'm not sure if in the background you guys can hear a bird chirping away, but it's a little dab chick. Cucumber soup, yes, they do fight over food and water, but it's not the same as what, like lions would fight over a meal. They do push and shove each other, but it generally doesn't get quite as nasty, except in times of drought. If it's drought and there really is no other water sources, then you'll find that these guys will become very testy, and they'll chase everything else away. So they'll chase rhinos and buffaloes and even sometimes hippos. They'll chase them out of their little water holes in order to dominate it. And so they do fight over water and food. Even when there's time of plenty like now, where there's a lot of food available, if there's a specific thing that one of them wants, they will push and shove each other, and generally the biggest one will win, and they will then be the ones that take the food and end up eating. So you see it quite often in the dry times as well, when they're pulling up roots. One will pull up a root, and one of the other bigger ones will come and kind of push them away and take over that root eating. So they do compete over food and water quite regularly. But the little dab chicks I was talking about, just on my left is a tiny little chick. I'm not sure if this is the famous little one. I can't remember what its name is, Emma. I know James has been following a dab chick of late, or a little grebe. Is probably what I should be calling a dab chick, is the old name. It's very, very vocal and making a lot of noise, and this poor parent is very busy diving all over the place trying to find little morsels of food for this little one to feed its insatiable hunger. But there they are, so you can see the adult and the little one now. Apparently there's two chicks, and one is called Zach. Okay, I'll have to phone James and ask him all about his chicks. It's obviously a busy place right now. You see on the opposite side of the water beaker, it's almost like the same as what we had with the Ellies, but there's guinea fowl that have just come down to drink, and they're lining up, not quite as orderly as what the Ellies are, but they're right on the edge of the water hole, and they too will probably be coming for a bit of water. I'm surprised though that they're drinking here. Generally you'll find birds are quite shy of drinking at a big water hole like this because of the threat of crocodiles. I don't know where the crocodile was. Last time I was here there was a croc in here, but the threat of crocodiles is normally quite real, so they typically try and stay away from the edge of big water holes and drink at small puddles, but maybe these are just brave guinea fowl. Alright, well, it sounds like Nicky has found a bird of his own, so let's send you across there, and hopefully it hasn't flown off by the time you get to him.
So we're doing a bit of a drive along the river, see if there's any signs of lions or possibly leopard, and we spotted these two, looks like white-backed vultures up in the tree. Now, maybe only if we can go to that one on the right, maybe zoom in on that one there. You'll notice that this one has very strange color, like a very darkish face. Also, the wash on the sides, it has a very dark, almost like a dirty wash on the side, and a bit of darker feathers towards the end. So it's a youngster, but still a white-backed vulture. And then the one slightly left is, if you zoom into that one right there, you'll see there's a bit more color. And if they had to fly, if that one had to start flying, you'll probably see a bit more white on the back. But that one does look like a adult, where the other one is a youngster. Now, there's nothing underneath the tree. I think with these vultures, they are pretty close to where they're nesting. So most of the vultures here nest on these big trees along the river. And I think the ones that are up here probably has a nest somewhere very close. So I think for now, let's slowly carry on with our drive. So what we're doing now is we're actually heading into an area where the last time we drove here, we found the leopard. So that's why we're driving down this riverbed, to see if there's any signs possibly. But also, Sean and Rowan unfortunately didn't find those lions this morning. They were tracking really hard, and eventually they left the tracks. A little bit more on this direction where we are heading on now. So we are going to go, we're actually going to head down in that area now and see if we can find any more fresher tracks or signs. But it's such a lovely afternoon. It's quite interesting with the weather. I said to Owen, it feels like it's all of a sudden just changed into winter. Everything looks a lot more dull in color. However, of course, there's a combination with having a lot of greens, having the beautiful pale grass, and of course a lot lighter lighting. And also this afternoon there's quite a bit of a breeze blowing, so I don't know, maybe if because of that all the animals are going to move to the river. We've seen quite a few impala and glimpses of kudus in this denser area. And also, just quickly have a look here. Oh, what's that bird flying up there? I think you'll be able to get it. So I'm going to quickly head up. There we go. It looks like another whiteback vulture. He's quickly disappearing out of the screen. But while we're having continuing our search, let's send you across back to Tristan with apparently some playful elephants.
Well, hopefully Nicky will find whatever it is that he's looking for. He had a bit of luck this morning. There's an ellie that's wading through. I didn't even notice that until now. I was too busy watching these young ones having a little bit of a play, but one of the ellies has waded straight across the middle of the dam, and you can actually see how deep it is, which is quite nice. It's a little watermark across his legs, so it shows you that this dam, while big, is not incredibly deep, particularly not on that northern side. The southern side of the dam is generally a lot deeper, and would probably go up to about his eyes, but that northern side is quite shallow, and you can see it just goes up to his tummy, but still a lot more water than this time last year, that's for sure. This time last year there wasn't even water where he's standing now, so looking a lot better. But this is just the most magic sighting. These little ones on the bank closest to us are just giving us the best it'll show. I mean, they're not doing huge amounts of things in very big bursts, but they kind of every now and then playing a little bit, and there's this sort of light that's coming through, and there's a bit of dust and water, and they interact with each other every now and then. It really is just the most magic thing to sit with eddies like this, and I'm always one of those people that loves spending time with an animal. I find that when you sit and you spend long periods with animals is when you start to really kind of get an appreciation for their characters, and it's when you start to see incredible things, because generally it takes a bit of time for them to relax around you, and then on top of it, the more time you spend, the more you end up being able to learn from them. So it really is why are you guys talking? Huh? It really is the best thing just to sit with them and enjoy these incredible afternoons. Now, of course, if you guys are enjoying this and you're enjoying sitting with the ellies as much as I am, it would be really good if you guys would support us. You can just follow the link below, so we can try and keep this going for as long as possible. Oh, so nice. There's dust, there's ellies. It's beautiful. The only problem is where I'm parked right now, it's probably not the most ideal spot in terms of if they decide to start spraying themselves, because we're going to end up being covered in water. So, little ones, I know you look like you're going to be full of nonsense, but you're not allowed to come and spray us, okay? Okay, good. We've established that now. After a firm talking to you. Oh, look at the dust on top there, Beaker. So pretty. Like I say, if it was just maybe 20 minutes later, the dust would be golden as they flung it around. And it's quite common to see this after a little bit of a drink. If they've sprayed themselves with a bit of water, then dust bathing is the next thing. And it's because the dust then sticks to them once they're wet. I think we're going to have them walking right past us, which will be super cool. Hello, big girl. Isn't this amazing? This is absolutely incredible. Hi guys. Now, I just want to see how they line up. If they're going to start drinking, then I might just back up a little bit and give them some space. The big adult females don't look like they're drinking. It looks just more like the young ones that want to come say hello. Hi guys. Isn't this amazing? Absolutely absolutely incredible to be this close to ellies. It's one of the most precious things. Hi everybody. And now the thing is about ellies is that often a lot of people generally are a little bit nervous of ellies coming quite close, and you can be a little bit nervous of it. Obviously they can be dangerous animals, but in this particular instance we've been parked quite far away from them for quite some time, and only now they decided that this is where they want to come. And generally if we're in the way and we're in an area, they wouldn't have come towards us if they weren't comfortable with our presence. Now, ideally, I would like to back up and allow them to kind of line up along the edge of the bank, but they're too close now for us to start the car. If we were to start the car now, we're going to just panic them a little bit. A loud sound at this proximity with babies around us is not the best idea. And so it's better just to sit quietly now and just wait and let them do their thing. Ultimately, there's also a lot of space to the right-hand side over this section where they're able to go and drink. So we'll just kind of be patient and let them figure it all out. But isn't this incredible? Listen to that. That's so cool. Gina, you say you love the feisty ones? Oh, they're my favorite too. The small feisty ones are the best. They generally are the most entertaining, that's for sure. And they love to kind of cause a bit of trouble and make a bit of nonsense. So I always enjoy them as well. They make me laugh a lot and they're highly entertaining. Hello guys. You are just such a beautiful group. And so relaxed as well. I say there hasn't been an ear out, there hasn't been any sort of nonsense or trumpeting at us or anything like that. It's just been completely relaxed. But I'm going to keep quiet and let you listen to this female drink because the sounds are absolutely amazing. Listen to her breathing and pushing that water in and out of her trunk. Isn't that cool? Amazing that you can actually hear the water kind of being pushed out of the trunk and into the mouth. This is so special. How amazing is that? So cool. I cannot tell you how much I've missed being in amongst the ellies. Now, sorry Emma, if you can just repeat what Spencer said. I didn't hear nicely. Are you guys going to come past us now? Spencer wants me to be sprayed. Spencer, to be honest with you, I'm not really sure I want to be because there's this chilly wind that's blowing, and once the sun goes down, if I'm going to be covered in water, I'm not going to be very happy about it. So I'd rather not be sprayed, and I'm quite thankful that they're not, but just listen to them kind of filing past. Isn't this amazing? There's one that's being naughty next to us here. What's wrong? Are you not a fan of the vehicle? This one's a little unsure. There's a female that's about to come past. It looks quite pregnant. You'll see her stomach is quite bulgy. she's very, very big. Now, of course, these guys are pregnant for a long, long time, so tummies get very big when they get to that point where they are about to give birth. I don't think she's at the point where she's going to give birth imminently, but she's definitely showing signs of pregnancy. Are you playing? Look at this. This is so cool. Hello, girl. Look how she's sniffing. So a huge part of an elephant's ability to work out its environment is obviously through its sense of smell. And so you'll see the trunk is working just to figure out what we are and whether or not we're something that she needs to worry about. But after a few little sniffs, she works out, okay, I know what this is, and I'm happy to kind of carry on. It's absolutely incredible. So Jacqueline, you're saying you can only imagine how cool it is to be this close to Ellie's. Well, Jacqueline, I can promise you it is one of the best things for me personally. I know there's some people that are quite fearful of Ellie's and generally are not that trusting of them, and for them it would probably be not the greatest thing, but for me, sitting in amongst Ellie's, and even when I guide guests and take guests on private safaris, it's one of my favorite things to do is to try and get people into a situation where you can park. And like I said, you can see how far those Ellies are from us at the moment. That's where they started and eventually wormed their way past us. But to just sit in a situation like that, and sometimes not even to take pictures, it's sometimes just to tell people to kind of put the cameras down and actually just sit and listen and take in the sound and the smells, because when elephants are that close, you can actually smell the dust, and you can smell grass that's been broken. It's pretty incredible to be that close to them. And so to sit quietly and just have them around you and in your presence is absolutely unbelievable. And it's one of my absolute favorite things to do with guests. It's an incredibly humbling experience to have such big creatures like that are so trusting to be around you. It really is amazing. So hopefully one day you'll get to experience it wherever you are in the world. I hope that one day you're out on a safari and you're able to see Ellies close by. All right, well, we're going to wait for this little grouping to probably kind of file past us before we leave. And in the meantime, let's send you back across to Lauren and see how she's getting on this afternoon.
We just witnessed a male who was clearly in must chasing a female. She trumpeted and she raced into this block. He's chasing her at speed. We tried to keep up with them in case we could witness some mating, because whether that female likes it or not, mating probably will occur. And it's quite normal for the female to leave the herd anyway. But unfortunately, we can't see them. It was a huge trumpet. And he chased her and chased her. But sadly, I think we've lost him in that block. She was a young female. She was a smaller female. Obviously in estrus, and he's following her by scent. And he's very much got his sights set on her. How frustrating. That would have been so lovely to witness. Well, if the female calmed down, it would be lovely to witness. No, I think we've lost them. We're moving so fast. We really tried to keep up with them. But we are going to pop into the Mawati, where I have not been in a very long time. I'm actually quite excited about this. Ooh. Are you holding on, Darby? Here we're going to cruise the dry riverbed that is the Mawati and see if anybody's here. Matthew, you're asking about elephants sleeping. They don't actually sleep as much as the likes of humans do. They're said to be quite sleepless mammals, not as sleepless as giraffes. They're said to be the most sleepless mammals, but they do sleep. They can sleep standing up. They can go into a state of rest. They close their eyes. They normally herd together. And mamas and older females can do this when the youngsters are sleeping on the ground. So the youngsters, the small ones, will keel over on the ground and go to sleep. They get very exhausted. And the mothers will all stand in a circle almost and guard the youngsters. And when they do this, they can close their eyes and they can go into a state of rest. But they can also lie down. Even the bigger elephants, they can also lie on their side. It's not so easy for them to get up quickly, but they absolutely can rest lying on their side as well. But I think for the bigger elephants, especially your bulls, standing up is probably the easiest way to do it. So they can lean against a tree, close their eyes, and go into a delicious state of rest. But they're highly mobile animals. They move a lot through the night as well. Even when it gets dark, elephants are always moving. They do not need their 8 hours of beauty sleep as we do, or at least I do. It's so nice to drive, even if it's just a small section of the Mulwati. BK and I were actually reminiscing yesterday about Sebwig. And many of the new viewers will not know who I am talking about, but I am talking about a spotted eagle owl that captured all of our hearts, and we followed him for a very, very long time. Good old Sebwig. We watched him grow, we watched him turn from a small little fluff ball into a big adult eagle owl. Oh, I hope he's doing well. Okay, I'm going to check the southern boundary just to see if there's been any movement since this morning. But for now, we're going to send you guys back across to Tristan.
Well, hopefully you'll find something down the southern boundary. It's crazy. I was actually really wanted to kind of drive the Mulwati on my first drive back, but got so sidetracked by leopard tracks this morning, which is not unusual for me, and I didn't even get there, but I'll get there at some point. Anyway, I was just sitting now and saying to BK that it's amazing how pretty this little scene is at the moment, kind of looking across this water with this Ellie on this open clearing feeding and that soft afternoon light. There was also some fires that were lit to do fire breaks and just burn certain little sections. So there's a bit of a haze in the air at the moment, and that haze with the soft kind of winter light and there's just Ellie kind of feeding across from the water, it's hard to sort of tear yourself away from this. And the rest of the herd has long moved on, but it's just nice to kind of watch him peacefully feeding on the other side. And of course the hardy-dar would ruin our peace with its squawk that you might have heard in the background. There's a pied wagtail. I haven't seen one of those in a while. So just in front of me here on the right-hand side is a pied wagtail. So nice to see water birds again. It's been long since we've had these kind of guys around. You can see it just milling about there, and you'll see why it's called a wagtail fairly shortly. There we go. You see the little tail bouncing up and down. So that's where they get the name from. And these guys are fairly common within this reserve, but typically around, hey, three-banded plover, are you chasing? Was it a three-banded plover that came down? It might have been. These guys are fairly common, but we see them a lot on the river systems within the Sabi Sand. So on the Sabi and the Sand River, they're pretty common there. But up here, because it's been so dry over the last number of years, we haven't seen too many of these guys, unfortunately. But it's become so close that it's now in front of the car, as you can see. Interesting, it's feeding around the elephant dung, obviously, where little insects are around. There we go. There's a little three-banded plover. That is also in front of us at the moment. But yes, you're quite right, Emma. There's close encounters all around, whether it be feathered or warm-blooded at this stage. And so while we negotiate this very scary charge of a wagtail, let's send you across to Nicky and see if he's had any luck on his side.
Yeah. Okay. You want to quickly adjust that?
Yeah, thanks.
Well, unfortunately, there's a little bit of a technical difficulty with Nicky, so you guys are back with us while they sort that out. These things happen out here in the bush. It's one of those things. Right, we're going to leave our Ellies now. As much as I probably would stay with them for longer, I'm going to try and see if we can somehow hustle a leopard out this afternoon. I'm going to go back to where I had all those tracks this morning and just check around. I spoke to the guys from Sumambili during the day today, and they said that the female tracks end up going quite a long way, but they almost convinced that the male's still on our side, and I'm pretty sure it's Hukamuri. They said that they had Hukamuri not far from there yesterday, so I just want to go back into that area. It's this time of the day, it's starting to cool down. It's when leopards will start to move around and start to get up and mark territory and do all kinds of other things. And there was lots of ratting impalas in that area and warthogs, and so it's a good place to go and scratch around at this time of the day, and maybe we'll get lucky and we'll be able to find Hukamuri. I'd be very happy to see him again. It's been a while since I've seen the hook. In fact, I think the last time I saw him was with James as my cameraman. I'm not sure, I might have seen him after that, which was a incredibly entertaining afternoon. James, as you all know, is incredibly funny, and having him as your cameraman makes it equally funny, because he has lots of little comments behind the camera and you end up just giggling the whole time. And that particular drive, we ended up going into fits of laughter towards the end after a few little mechanical issues and some towing and various other things. It was highly entertaining from our point of view. I'm not sure it was entertaining for anybody else, but we certainly thought we were funny and found it incredibly interesting. All right, look at that. Isn't that pretty? I'm just going to go forward a little bit, BK, so you get rid of that piece of grass in front of the body. But there's this kind of golden grass and this Ellie bull that's just standing in it, feeding in a little bit of dust. You'll see that there is a fence behind it, which is the fence around the camp. This was the waterhole that was right in front of camp, so there is that. But you see the dust kind of falling off his head as he walks along. Super pretty. It's nice when there's these fires in the kind of, all the smoke in the air from these fire breaks. It really does make a much softer light, which is wonderful for obviously filming and photography. But there we go, there's the dust that we wanted. You're a very obliging elephant and making it very difficult for us to move on. Well, unless if I said that, then he's going to walk behind a stump, isn't he? Or a tree. Yes. I spoke too soon. Right, well, while our Ellie decides to go behind the tree and we carry on, let's send you down to Lauren, who I think is staring at an animal that also likes water, much like these Ellies.
A gallon of water bugs. Many females. I think I saw one male. Did you see him, Darby? Oh, there, right behind the marula tree. There, right behind the marula tree. But I think it's one male, a group of females, and some Impala thrown in just for good luck. Oh, aren't you magnificent? Waterbug bulls are very, very territorial. They always set up their little territories around water, which means not only have they secured their territory, they have, of course, secured a precious resource, which is water. So normally these territories for the bulls are very resource rich. The vegetation will be very rich around the water points as well. I don't know, just looking at us. Female herds generally come in at around 2 to 10. Between 2 to 10. That's your average size herd, depending on the number of youngsters. And they will move between territories of bulls. So they won't stay with the same bull. They'll move between territories. But some science actually says they will stay with the bull that they prefer the most, or could it be the territory that they prefer the most for the longest and most frequently will they visit him. But I wonder if it's not just the bull that they like. Maybe it's his territory and his setup that they like. But the bulls do try to keep them. The sort of sheepdog herding style. And they stop them from leaving. Of course, the bulls want all the ladies to themselves for mating purposes. Kremlin, you're saying they're the llamas of the bushveld. Agreed. They are. They're amazing animals. They're very, very gorgeous to look at. And the bulls are quite magnificent. I'm not sure who I would say is more magnificent. Waterbuck bull or a kudu bull. Both in their prime are absolutely, wow, stunning animals. They're actually all sort of heading to the dam. I can see a kudu bull in the background there as well. Crystal, you're asking, is there a lot of inter-species fighting? Was that correct, or was it intra? I think it was inter. Inter, no, there's not. Inter, unfortunately not. What inter means is between different species. So that would be, for an example, kudu versus waterbuck, or Ngala versus Impala, and very, very rarely among antelope. They stick to what they know. They're not really threats to one another if they're not from the same species. But intra-fighting means within the species. So yes, you would find males fighting with one another within their own species. But out with their species, and males from a different species, no, Crystal, definitely not. It's not worth it. They're not competing for the same females, and normally it benefits herds to be around one another. The perfect example, wildebeest and impala on quarantine. The wildebeest males don't want impala females, and vice versa, but it benefits them to share the same space in order to keep safe from predators. There's plenty of food to go around, no competition, resources are not limited, so it benefits them to share the same space, and therefore it wouldn't make much sense if there was interspecies fighting. But good question. Okay, we're going to just check the mole wanini to make sure our Miss Kuchava hasn't been roaming this area. And as we do that, we're going to send you back across to Nikki, who's catching up with his elephant.
So we started making our way into the area where we last saw, or the last tracks were of the lions. And right in front of us in the road, there's a herd of, I think, close to 20 elephants. And there was a little baby that's moving from the right to the left. Just want to spend some time here and wait for them to slowly start carrying on. But it's such a beautiful scene. You'll see the light on these elephants. It's starting to get to that golden hour. As well as, if you look at the grass, it has this golden red appearance around it as well. Just have a look at that little one. And then off to the left as well. Oh, and I don't know if you can see that one off to the left from where these ones are. I don't know. Just have a look, see if there's anything in the way. There's also another youngster on this side. It's such a interesting scene because it looks like there's two big females here with their youngsters, and just off to the right there's a couple more, and all of them are currently split up at the moment. So the last thing we want to do is carry on the road and end up between all of them. So we just give it a bit of time for them to move off, and then we'll carry on with our drive. But always amazing to see elephants. Annie, I have seen elephants laying down before. Sometimes they're really tired. They'll go up to a termite mound and they actually lean up against the termite mound. And they'll fall asleep for little periods of time. Some of the youngsters, when the mums are feeding, they might lay down flat on the ground. But you don't really see them as often just sitting down. But you could find them lying down, especially if they do sleep. And sometimes if the wind is really blowing quite hard, you might just find that they'll go into a dense area and then lay down on the ground there. I have seen it before. So when I guided andBeyond Pinda, there's one of the lodges called Forest Lodge in the northern side of the reserve in the beautiful old dry sand forest. And I remember the one day we were tracking a herd of elephants, And then suddenly we saw this elephant flat in this big clearing amongst the trees, and we actually thought this elephant was dead. And after a while, it stood up and it started moving. So that was also the very first time that I saw it laying down for such a long time. Didn't even wake up with the vehicle being there. So I'm going to slowly push forward because I can see that little baby just behind that bush and see if we can maybe get a better glimpse of him. Just want to see where the other ones are because we don't want to end up in the middle of the herd. I'm just going to stop like this for now because the other thing we're trying to do is also not get too close, especially if there's a baby around. But you'll just want to focus on, if you can see this one off to the left here, just pulled out a tree, well, not a tree, like a small sapling. Now often if they pull it out, they might just be after the root. So let's see if this one would take it and then push the root. There we go. It's just after the roots. So at this time of the year, some of the trees actually store most of the nutrients in the roots. So the elephants will actually pull out the little tree to get to that root. And let's have a look. Like, I mean, it's a lot of effort just for that little piece. Maybe that elephant will start digging. And maybe even grab some more roots and putting it into his mouth. Or her mouth, sorry. See, it looks like she's got more roots there. And I can imagine how delicious it must be. Like everywhere the grass is at the moment, it's so dry. And some of the leaves of some of the trees here aren't really the best of leaves for elephants because it's very leathery and hard. And so for her, now it's just making the most out of that succulent root. And it's probably filled with a lot of nutrients as well. Look at that. Just curling it around with her trunk. And almost stepping on it as well. So stepping on it so it doesn't move, and then from there on using that very powerful her tusk and trunk just to break it off and then put it in her mouth. But while we're having a look at them, we'll probably slowly start carrying on from here. But I heard Lauren has two elephant babies that are playing with the dust at the moment.
My elephants are not chilled out, that's for sure. They're tussling two young boys. I can see their boys straight away, the genitals are out. And they're young. The one on the right, slightly bigger, which means he's older. But they're youngsters. They're just being naughty. It's nothing serious. There's just elephants everywhere. It's magnificent. I'm so happy. They just like to annoy one another. They like to be boisterous and push and prod and poke and touch heads, touch trunks. Spas, yes, we have been spoiled with elephants. We are so lucky that they are everywhere and we can see them. Davy, I'm not sure which elephants to go for. Oh, the fighting ones, I think. They're back at their tricks. Here we go. We've got mama and baby here, and then we've got these two naughty ones here. Yes, definitely two boys, unmistakable. And you won't really find females behaving like this. You can get a young female taking a tantrum every now and again. But generally speaking, it's the boys that behave like this. And I'm sure that doesn't surprise any of you. I love it when you can hear the tusks clashing against one another. It's quite a powerful sound. Megan, I think you're right, Megan. You think it looks like an elephant's version of arm wrestling. Yes, trunk wrestling. Trunk and tusk wrestles. It's really not serious. They've just got energy. Young boys who need to expel their energy and just practice being a bit rough and tough. They're probably realizing, hey, I'm actually quite big and strong. Zoe, absolutely not. They do not have sharp teeth. I can actually show you one, which feels a bit strange because I'm surrounded by elephants. I have a tooth in my box, if you just give me 1 minute to find it. And we're allowed to have this tooth. We have permission to have it. It comes from our tent, which we had to take down. But they have 6 sets of molars that come in at different ages of their lives. And they're rectangular and flat. And of course it's going to be right at the bottom of my box, isn't it? Tooth, where have you gone? Ah, I have you. I have you. Okay, Dobby. Are you ready? This is what an elephant's tooth looks like. So you can see this is a side view. So it's very flat. There's no canines or sharp teeth. And you can see this is what it looks like on top. It's got ridges to help them crunch through branches and twigs and shrubbery. So this one's actually, well, I'll put it in my hand and you get to see the size. I think this is maybe molar number 1 or, no, sorry, molar number 3 or 4. This one. So they have a sort of conveyor belt of molars that pop up at the back and then slowly move their way to the front as they wear down and fall out. The next one comes up and to the front. I don't think Dobby liked that demonstration very much, but that's how it works.
Lauren, come in. Lauren, come in.
I believe I am being summoned. Standing by.
Kristen, have you got an update for Djuma? George just got the alien around, but there's not anything else. I'm just coming back to this north area.
Okay. Hello, little youngster. What are you doing there on your own? So yes, the teeth are very important to an elephant, and it's actually said to be the main reason that they do die in the end once all their teeth wear down. What is this little one doing? Their teeth come in at different ages. So the molars, they call them. The first one will come in at about 1 year old. Then the second one will come in about 2 years old. The third one will come in about 6 years old. Oh, hello. Oh. Oh my goodness. What is happening here? What are you doing, little one? Oh! Okay. We're very scared. Dobby and I are very scared. Camel, you're saying, oh, I'm so scared. I know. Me too. We are. Camel's scared. I'm scared. Dobby's scared, okay? Big and fierce. Your mama's gonna tell you off when she knows what you're doing, little one. Oh, okay. Okay. the airplane. Oh, sweet, sweet. Okay, now I'm going to try and see if I can maybe get a better view of these Ellies for you. And as I do that, we are going to send you across to Tristan, who I believe has a track.
I do indeed. It's not every day that we get to see big snake tracks, and this is what this is a sizable snake that has crossed the road, and it's a beautiful, beautiful track. The angle of the light and everything else is creating a nice definition on the track, and so you can kind of see how it's been moving. Now, the reason obviously we know it's a track is because it's got a very S kind of bendy wind to it, but generally, snakes that make this kind of track are your faster moving snakes. So this would be something like one of the mambas, well, black mamba should I say, or one of the cobra species. They do this, and various others. Now, sorry, I'm just putting on my jacket because it's getting a little bit cool. And I'm going to get out and show you how you can use snake tracks to determine direction and all of those kinds of things. Hold on, BK. I've got to make a plan with my mic, otherwise it's going to fall. And then I'm going to be in trouble because I'm going to break things, and we don't want to do that. But essentially, with snake tracks, what you're looking for when you're determining direction is mounds of soil where the snake has tried to get traction and push itself along. So if you have a look over here, you see there's a big ridge on this side and then another one here. So what's happening is the body is going, and as it's getting traction and propelling itself forward, it's pushing sand like this there, and then again on this side, and again on this side, as it goes. Now this particular track is very fresh. I drove here just before we started the drive up to the gate, and it wasn't like this. You can see it's on top of all the vehicle tracks, so hopefully there's not a black mamba sitting very, very close to me here. It wouldn't be very nice to bend down and be face to face with one, but given that we drove and kind of, you know, the noise of the car, I suspect that mamba would be long gone. But it's amazing how many snake tracks I've seen today. I saw this one, there's one further down the road, and there's actually another one up the road as well. I don't think it's all the same snake, but I think the snakes are fairly active for the last little period before we get the real kind of winter cold. But nice to see. That's a large snake that has made that track, that's for sure. Right, now we're heading kind of back up to the area where I last had I believe a lot of you are worried for my safety with such a large snake around. No, don't worry about my safety. I'll be perfectly fine. The snake is going to be more scared of me than I am of it. I can assure you, generally snakes are not something that people should really worry about unless you're being, well, naughty and trying to catch them. Because if you catch them and try and handle them, that's generally when we start to see issues. Right, but like I said, I'm going to go check this area where these leopard tracks are. Hopefully we can have some luck. In the meantime, though, let's send you to that playful Ellie that Lauren has.
Our little youngster is trumpeting like there's no tomorrow. It's a little boy. Very, very... Oh, and these two are tussling, and we've got one coming to say hello, hello. Right in front of the car. Good afternoon to you too. It just seems to be this little youngster that's full of beans. Everyone else is very, very calm. This youngster's calmed down now that we're next to Mama. Mm-hmm. Hello. Just inspecting us, don't worry. The grass next to the car must be super delicious. This is so wonderful. Cat elephants are active throughout the night. Of course, we're not out throughout the night, but they will walk a lot. When they've got youngsters, the youngsters do need to rest more. So what you find is with a herd with a lot of youngsters, they will take breaks a lot more often. So the youngster who's rubbing itself. Yes. the youngster, he's going to charge us again, I think. I don't know if this female is mama. It's possibly not, because look, she looks very pregnant. Very, very... Oh, oh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Look at that older one saying, now calm down. You see that? Calm down. They're just humans. Silly old humans. But yes, sorry, elephants are active during the night. They walk throughout the night, they drink throughout the night, but they will take periods of rest for the young ones, like this size, to just keel over, sleep a little bit, and then they'll move again. Oh, this is very sweet. Pato, you're saying, oh my goodness, he's too adorable. I know. I know. Naughty, naughty little boy. See how they're being very tactile here. What the older one is doing is pacifying the young one. Getting it to calm down. He's heard it trumpeting. Oh. And by using his trunk, put the trunk in the little one's mouth. Calm down. That's what that means. That was very, very sweet. Yeah, that female in the back is very pregnant. I don't think that is mama. I think it's just another female. It'd be so wonderful to witness an elephant birth. You see how much the youngsters calm down now. You see little milk tusks. Tiny, tiny tusks. Barb, you're asking, will a matriarch ever lose her status other than, of course, passing away? No, very rarely. The matriarch is different from hyenas. The matriarch's an integral part of an elephant herd, and she is the leader off on their own. There's a lot more to elephant herd dynamics and the matriarchal life than you would realise. I mention it all the time, but I read a fantastic book on it that really opened my eyes to not only the role of the matriarch, but how the dynamics within a female-dominated herd actually works. They need the matriarch, so whether they like it or not, a younger cow could not overthrow her, because the matriarch needs to be able to lead the herd. And what I mean by that is lead the herd to safety, to water, to resources, vegetation that's going to sustain them, keep them healthy, protect them. And there's also a lot of teaching going on how to raise young. It's not only passing down knowledge and culture, it's also teaching, and that comes from the matriarch. If she's not able to lead the herd to safety or good environmental conditions, then she's failed as a matriarch. And these okay, yeah. And she's failed, and the herd dynamics will not be strong and maybe will not be successful. So it's really, really important that the matriarch is sort of a permanent fixture. Otherwise, the herd won't survive. Wow, this herd has just been such a joy to spend time with. Since the sun is setting, I do think we're going to head to Chitwa Dam in case anybody's there. But it seems like Nikki is watching the sun go down.
It is just so beautiful. So it is so beautiful in this area where we're driving now. There's all these golden colors. It's really hard to show it on the camera, but we're going to try and do it one more time. I'm just going to move here, but before we do it, there's just a quick bird up in the road there. Maybe we can get that bird and then try and show you this golden... Oh, don't run away. I don't know if you'll be able to get it before it runs off, but it's a Swainson spurfowl that just moved from the road and then went off. Now, if you look at the grass around here, look at the golden colors. So I'm just trying to see. I think the sun might be a little bit too bright. We're going to try and see if we can get you to see this. But you'll notice there's a lot of gold on the grass. Maybe we can try and zoom into the grass a little bit. No, I think it's a bit too hard to see it. I think the sun is also still very bright. But hopefully as we go along, you'll be able to see the golden colors right in front of us. So unfortunately we went into the area where the last tracks were of the line, so that was close to where the elephant herd was seen, and it seems to me the lines have moved into quite a dense area where unfortunately even if we had to find them, we won't be able to view them with a vehicle. Carry on, see if there's maybe other lions or other leopards we could possibly look out for, and that's where we're going to head now, maybe back towards the area of the river and scan those tall trees very carefully. But in the meantime, let's head across to Tristan.
You find your other lions. We're still looking for our leopard. I found tracks again of a male leopard, but I'm not sure. These don't look as fresh as the ones this morning. But it has been very windy today, so it's difficult to know exactly whose tracks these are. Like I was trying to say this morning, is when you have been away for a while, it takes a bit of time just to work out where tracks are and, you know, when last a vehicle drove there. All of these kind of things make life a little bit tricky in terms of tracking, particularly things like leopards. And you see, there he goes, cross straight into Buffelshoek. But how fresh are you? Looks to be alright. I wonder if this is not from this morning that he's gone this way. Well, could be. I'll show you the track now. So if you have a look in the middle of the road, and there's a track going straight kind of northwards. Now this could be, I'm just trying to see it, there it is, where my finger is. It could be Hukumuri, it could be Tingana. Both of them do cross here and go into Buffelshoek from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go westwards, because generally Hukumuri's loop is going to be back towards Sydney's Dam area and then out from there. So at this time of the day, it might be worth just checking Sydney's Dam. Maybe he's gone for water there, although there's enough water all over the place. But I'm pretty sure that's the track for this morning's affairs, I think. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Like I say, in this time of the year, the tracks look a lot fresher than they are because of how soft and powdery the sand is. This particular road is driven quite a lot, and so you would expect tracks not to last too long. So maybe it is last night's track or this morning's track, but I don't know, it just doesn't look great. The edges all look quite sort of eroded. That could be because of the wind that we've had today, but I don't know. We'll just have to check and find out. The only thing we can do is drive the boundary to the west and hope that this leopard turns back towards us. If it is Hukumuri, he's not going to be going further east from there. He's going to be he's going to come back towards, like I say, to the western side. Andy, yes, for the animals it is accessible, for people no. So there's no fence along the eastern boundary of the Kruger National Park and or of the Sabi Sands, the western boundary of the Kruger, and that allows free movement of animals in and out. We end up in a situation where we get a lot of different animals coming in. In fact, most of our male lion coalitions to come from other parts of the greater Kruger system. So the Evokers, the Birminghams before that, they all come from Timbavati area. But yeah, there's lots of lions that come in and out from the Kruger system, dogs, cheetah, leopards. In fact, the lineage that we see here, so Tandi, their mother Karula had a few boys, and some of those have distributed into the Kruger National Park. So Mishu and Duna, Shivambalana, they've all headed that side. So animals can pass freely, and that's what makes it so great about being in these open reserves, is that around a corner and there can be anything at any time and can be completely different things. You could get a new pride of lions, you could get rabbits, thousands of elephants one day, and no wilderness areas. Sabi Sands so incredible is that there's so much variety in these areas, and you just never know what you're going to get. Could turn for the worst as I go down towards Sydney's Down. In the meantime, though, I'm going to send you across to Lauren and see what she thinks about being in an open system.
Just after you left us last time, so we bashed through the block. We found the Impala. It's tricky to tell. It was a male, and honestly, right now the males are not the most reliable as they normally are. Normally you can always rely on an Impala, but he didn't appear to be snorting. He also didn't appear to be, well, alarm calling at any other males, but I can't see signs of a predator. I don't know what he could have been alarm calling at, but during this rutting season, it's just a worse time to trust an Impala. But still, we're going to look. This is a block that Davi and I actually had Kuchava in at Christmas time. We heard alarm calls, so we went racing in, blind, on a huge Impala ram. Still alive. It's one of the most difficult sightings I've had. And Saka, the hyena, chased Kuchava off. It was just worth checking around the block, but I don't think so. I think it's still worth going to the dam though. That's where we were headed anyway, to watch that glorious sunset. Comms broke up just a little bit. Tim, you are right. It's Impala ignoring season. You can't help it. You hear it and you think, oh, you get your hopes up. My goodness, what could it be? But then you realise, these males are not to be trusted. If it's females, a slightly different case. But as soon as you see it's a male, I don't know whether to go this way or try this road again. What do you think, Davi? Davi's saying go back just in case it was a predator. I think you're right. Oh my goodness, I've said that twice in one day, Davi. Yes, let's do the road one more time. Always double check yourself out here. But yes, Tim, you're completely right. It's time to ignore the Impalas. Every time, almost every time, I would say 95% of the time, I've heard Impala alarm call and there's been a predator. 100%. But during this month or two, I think we just need to let the males be, I'm afraid. They lose focus, they completely lose sight of what's important, of being an Impala, and they only focus on the females. Females, 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 maybe a little bit of territory, females, females, and more territory. Yes, it's not the smartest way to be out here when you've got predators. And a lot of them lose condition. You will find, if we do start to find the predators, most of the kills that they will have will be Impala rams. Because they're not focusing, they're not paying attention. They're far too distracted by the ladies, shall we say. And they don't listen out for predators, they're not watching properly, they're not hydrating, and they're also not eating properly. They're too busy with their quickly by the predators. Akila, deers and antelopes are overall part of the larger group of animals, but they're from separate families. And deers have antlers, as you know, and they're able to shed them. So annually, deers will lose their antlers and regrow. Sorry, I'm just looking at the ground here to make sure I'm not missing anything. Whereas antelopes, they have permanent horns that grow and grow and get bigger throughout their lifetime, and they will never shed them. They can't shed them. So that's a major difference. They're also found in different geographical locations, and they do belong to different family groupings. but overall they're ungulates. I don't see any tracks. Kudo, I think we may have to settle with the fact that it was an Impala Philippines. Okay, we're going to get out of here. I would quite like to be on the eastern boundary, I think. And as I make my way there, we are going to send you back across to Tristan, who's also scratching around.
We are scratching around and trying to see what we can find. So far, no, like I've just come back to the boundary on the western side just to double check that there's no sign of any females crossing onto our side, or, you know, from this morning there was so much going on. You see, there's now tracks for a female leopard here too. But I don't think these are very fresh because it looks like vehicles have driven over them. They're just on the right side of the car, up and down in this section. Just want to double check if they're coming up the road, because if they are, then it's the right ones. Yeah, so those are the ones from this morning. So not what we are looking for, but it looks like they were kind of going in, but they turn. I remember looking at them this morning, and they actually turn back and then go north and then across back into Simambili. So that's not what we're looking for. Now, sorry, Emma, if you can just repeat that. I lost the gist of the question, which is not a pun on Just a Kudu asking the question. Does light? I don't know what Emma's saying to me. She's saying something about light, but... does a light frost occur in Djuma and affect our tracking? Not really, no. I've never seen frost on Djuma, and if it were to occur, it wouldn't affect the tracking. It would actually probably make tracking easier, because when animals walk over frost, they leave very, very clear footprints. So if you were a person and you've ever walked in a place where there's frost, you'll know that your footprints are very clear. Now, excuse me, I'm going to get out the car for 2 seconds, because I'm going to be a little bit naughty and go into Simambili for 2 seconds, but the reason is a good reason and the right thing to do. And that is because there is litter, and we don't leave litter out in the newspaper. While it will break down eventually, it can be a bit of a fire issue. If fires come through, it tends to light quite quickly. So better not to have newspaper floating about in the bush. Always good just to pick up litter when you see it. So just being diligent is what we're being. So I'm sure Simambili won't mind us picking up litter. And it's also only just off of the boundary anyway, so it should be just fine. Okay, where to from here is the question. Who can we go look for at this stage? There's nobody has checked on the Buffelshoek side whether Hukamuri or that track of that male goes west or east. I suspect if it goes east, it would be Tingana. If it goes west, it would be the Hook. So it'd be interesting to know, but I don't think anyone's actually properly checked that area. So might be worth just still scratching around in this northern sector. You never know. It's the right time of the day to be about. It's so strange driving this road this morning and this afternoon and not seeing a car. This road is normally incredibly busy with cars going up and down. This is the main access point for this northern sector of the Sabi Sand, so you have staff and delivery vehicles and obviously game drive vehicles, and it's just like there's nobody around at all today, and it's very odd to me. I've never known it to be like this. Oh my goodness, there's literally leopard tracks absolutely everywhere. Emma's saying that you're all congratulating us for being me for being an eco warrior. It's the right thing to do, and it's something it up, and it's like we'd have a much cleaner part of the world. Anyway, right, we're going to just check out some other tracks that I've seen here. In the meantime, though, I'm going to send you back across to Nikki and see how he's going on his side. Hopefully he's going to have some luck with lions late this evening.
So we didn't manage to find any lions or leopard this afternoon, but we have found this troop of baboons in the riverbed. And often, like, watching them is probably one of my favorites. See how this one's laying on his back, and the other one is probably picking off some ticks, maybe some external parasites that are up that leg. See how he's like, this one's just using the fingers to brush through the hair to see if there's anything. And if I can ask you, look out to the left of those. See, there's a few sitting down, but there's one with a baby on the back. Mom's walking, you'll see the little baby sitting on Mom's back. Camo pug, I do agree, they are very cheeky. And we had a discussion the other day. It's like sometimes if you do see them like out in the open and see what mischief they're up to, it does sometimes look like a fan at the beach. And even with us at the lodge, we often encounter very funny stories that are always related to baboons. But have a look at this one now. So it's now, okay, quickly, time to clean before you head off to bed, because now this is the time of the evening when they slowly start to move to possibly a roosting site, an area where they'll sleep the night, head up in the tree, away from the predators, out of reach from any danger, and that's where they spend the night. You'll also notice when we zoom out again from where they are, there's quite a few common animals around. Like you'll see where that one is sitting, just to some kudus coming past, and just off to the right of where those kudus are, you'll notice there's some Impala, which is right there. So they do know that with the baboons being up in the tree, there's safety in numbers. So more eyes, more ears, the safer they're going to be. So that also, if there's any potential lion, those baboons will be able to spot it from so far off using that vantage point up in the tree. You can see that one baboon that we're looking at in the middle of the screen. It looks like the back part, the bottom part is really swollen. So if females go into estrus, it swells up like that. So it just is an indication to the males that she is ready to mate. These are, baboons are, especially when it comes to lions. With leopards, sometimes, if there's youngsters, the leopard might try and go for the youngsters. However, if a leopard tries to take on a big baboon, so I'm just trying to see where it would be a decent-sized baboon to illustrate this. Maybe if we can even use this baboon right over here. So, yeah, I think he is. He's not one of the biggest that I've seen with it. Not careful and is very inexperienced. That baboon will be capable of killing a leopard. Sometimes with a troop of baboons moving through an area, there's any young lion cubs that have been left in an area, they could be potentially dangerous, or could be in potential danger because of the baboons. Otherwise, they do avoid each other. The baboons, if they do spot a predator, they make a lot of noise and immediately run up a tree so they can get out of harm's way. But baboons, a big baboon's teeth would be the size of a big lion. So you can just imagine if a leopard is not too experienced and is trying to take on something like a big male baboon, it could be in deep trouble. See how that youngster's just clinging on to mum. This might be thirsty, just wanting a suckle. Because often if they do suckle, they'll grab onto mum, like especially from the bottom, and try to suckle from there. But mum's not really making it too easy. Dove, I have seen where a baboon would eat an impala. They omnivores, so anything they can get, from birds to bird eggs to little tortoises, scorpions, so basically anything. And I have seen them even catching young impala. So what they often do is, with the impala being that close, sometimes if there's a very youngster or a very small one, and it's been a very dry year, or they haven't been able to find enough food, they are opportunistic and they could take young impala. But if there's abundant food, you can see, look at this one's belly, like either pregnant or possibly just had a very, very good feast for the day. Stripe horse, I would say, with there's actually, look here on the top of the tree, I think some of the vultures are actually coming up to nest. They might have a nest up at the top. It looks like the hooded vultures. Would it be a bit too close to this tree? See, there's one coming in, and there's a few that just landed at the top. Yeah, but do you see the very top? Like right in the middle, at the very top of that tree there. Yeah, there we go. So the two hooded vultures. So they do nest quite a bit up on the river here. But just to get back to that question about the baboons. So very interesting is that the baboons will have quite a variety of different diets. I mean, just look at this one here. He's actually just flopped down. This one baboon just flopped down in the sand on this side. And he was looking at us. So let's just have a look while I answer the question. So they eat anything from berries to leaves of some tree, fruits. They'll eat scorpions, berries. And a typical diet would be a lot of berries, scorpions. You'll see them sometimes moving, and they'll actually take their hands and roll a rock around to see if there's any sort of maybe scorpion spiders they can go for. And then if there's any berries around at the season, so normally this time of the year, there's a few of the raisin bushes that are berries. Early on in the year, there was a lot of the tree, and you find marula. I don't know what this one. Let's have a look. It looks like a marula nut that this baboon actually grabbed and then started brushing the sand off, and now it's just probably trying to break it so it can get to the nut inside of it. But while we're having a look, I think it is getting a bit darker now. Let's head across to Lauren.
We are definitely losing light at this side too. The sun has disappeared. It was a glorious sunset. It's starting to get a little bit chilly too. I was teasing Davy for putting his jacket on, but I also think I should have put my jacket on. But I'm not going to say that sentence one more time. So we are doing the eastern boundary. Torchwood, Djuma. And of course Tandy has been doing rounds, ding, 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 back and forth. And not that I think we're going to bump into her, but I think once a day in the morning and once in the afternoon we definitely need to check. What I also found interesting is that she seems to be preferring Torchwood at the moment. From what we can gather, from our current knowledge, she seems to be spending most of her time on Torchwood. And I mentioned this morning, but Torchwood was her stomping grounds originally. Her mother was Karula, who had a huge territory, and Tandy was sort of mostly raised in Torchwood. And I just find it really interesting that now that she's having her own kid, she's returning to her natal grounds. And normally when an animal returns to its natal grounds to, give birth or raise offspring, you call this philopatric. And that means that they go back to exactly where they came from. And this applies to many different animals, especially turtles. So sea turtles actually have an internal GPS system, if you like. And they will hatch from an egg, make that climb out of the sand, the arduous journey into the ocean, travel across the globe through many different oceans. And if it's a female, of course, when she's ready to lay her large clutch of eggs, she'll return to her natal beach. And normally, according to sort of scientific studies, she returns to the exact same point in that beach if she can. Now, of course, beaches change. Nothing's constant. Sand moves, there's erosion. There's also humans who like to build bars and clubs and restaurants and huts and all sorts of things on beaches. But if the individual female can come back to that exact same spot that she was born, she will. So you know when you see a female turtle returning to a pristine beach, that she hatched from an egg on this exact beach, and it's beautiful, and you call this philopatric. The females are philopatric. And I just think it's really interesting that Tandy's choosing to spend most of her time raising these cubs in her natal grounds. I don't know. I just personally find that fascinating. I wonder if there is some sort of connection, or if there's just better resources for Tandy and Torchwood. Less threats, more areas for dens. It could be something as simple as that. It could be environmental factors, but I wonder if there's a link to being slightly philopatric. Now, every time we pass a junction, I just think it's really important that we check for tracks. Oh. Yeah, it's not a track, is it? I'm not tall enough to properly see. Ah, Jenna, you're saying that is so interesting. It is. It really is. There's old tracks. And they're not going in the right direction, I'm afraid. I wonder if they should just pop down this way. And yes, it's very, very interesting. It's not just sea turtles. There's lots of animals that do it. Think of salmon. Salmon make that great journey going against the current, upstream, to get to the grounds that they were born, if you like. So there's many animals that make the long, arduous journey across different terrains. Oh, Miss Anamandris, you're saying you think it has to do with whoever the father of Tandy's cubs is. Possible. Very, very possible. I mean, I think at this stage, we really have no clue. But the options are, based on Tandy's territorial movements, I have something to show you. I cannot believe it's taken me this long to remember. I have the territories maps. Lauren, why did I forget? So based on Tandy's territorial movements, I think you can safely say Tingana, Mulwati, or Quarantine. Those are the potential fathers. I'm not being rude, I'm being on my phone. I'm trying to get these maps for you. Now, these maps were created by Yvonne, who used to work with us, and myself. And what we've tried to do here is use the sightings data that we have collected based on the Panthera reports, but not entirely, and try to recreate a map for you. So are you ready? Here we go. Now, this is the male leopard sightings area, and I have to say Yvonne is probably the biggest contributor to this, not myself. You can see the two males. This is since January, so we're basing this on sightings since January. The two males that we have are only Tingana and Hukumuri, and you can see very clearly this box here is Djuma, this sort of square. Now, what I must say is this does not exactly highlight the territories. This is just based on sightings and movements. We've been noticing Tingana pushing a little bit further west. He came from Arathusa the other day as well. What does this mean? I don't know. But what is interesting, if I just get my porky pointer, is this area here. You can see this is a territorial boundary, and I think this is where we always see Tingana and Hukumuri cross. It's on Vuatella axis, and it's sort of around the junction with Zoe's and power lines. Both these territorial males use this area. And just based on the sightings pins alone, you can see this is where they clash. This is where Tingana clashes with Hook and Hook clashes with Tingana. Now, I know that Tingana's territory extends much further into Buffelshoek. I'm very aware of that, but this is just based on data from January, February, March and April. And Hukumuri's, of course, goes all the way down south. Now, are you ready for the female one? A lot of work went into these maps, so I'm hoping that they make perfect sense. Now we'll start up here. Again, this is Djuma. And you can see that Tlalamba really has been spotted in all of these areas. She really has this sort of section, the largest section of Djuma, the northern sector. And if I'm just to scroll a little bit, you can see that Tandy is coming in on the southeast. Now, Tandy's territory was much bigger. She handed over a little section of her territory to her daughter, which is entirely normal for female leopards. You can see Shadulu here comes in from the west. So you can see how these three females navigate around Djuma. These are the three territorial females now. I think it's safe to say that Tlalamba is definitely territorial now. These are the three that move around Djuma. Now I'm just going to, sorry Davi, go up a little bit and you'll see Sibui. Sibui touches into Djuma from the Gowrie Main. Sometimes we see her at Treehouse, sometimes we see her at Twin Dams, but really Sibui's territory is much further south on Hoffman's, Little Gowrie, Chitwa, and further south than that. Kuchava here, there's a bit of a spelling mistake, excuse me, there's no T, is mainly in the southeast. So you'll see Kuchava extends much further down south into Chitwa, and she does extend further into Torchwood, but these are just based on the sightings that we of course had of her. Now this darker green is from Ikanyeni. We just thought we would include Ikanyeni because she just is outside of our traverse. This is Cheetah Cut line, the boundary line that I actually just came off. This one here, the eastern boundary. And you can see Ikanyeni is just to the east of her, and we really don't get sightings of her, which is sad. So this is how the females all move. And I love what Yvonne's done. It's all credit to her. We worked together on this because you can see the parts moving together. Luna, very good question, Francesca. Luna has not been sighted. She's not been reported. So if we don't have the sightings report, then we can't establish their movements. Mulawati was also not in the males because his movements have not been reported. Yes, we've seen him a lot recently, but that was for May. This only extends up to April. So we're going to keep building on these maps together. We're going to keep sharing them with you. We have a file, and I'll keep showing them. I'll keep showing them as many times as you want, because I think humans are visual animals. They say that visual information reaches the human brain 60,000 times faster than text does. Actually, I'm just going to check down here. And no, I'm going to go here. Sorry, I'm making decisions as I'm talking. And that's why we really need to see things, humans. So looking at that map, although it won't be accurate entirely, it does give you an indication of where these individuals are moving and how are they moving and where are those boundaries that are fluid that meet with other individuals. So I hope you all enjoyed that. Of course, as we progress, we'll add in the new sightings, but Luna has not been sighted and therefore we can't establish where her territory is. I have the lions for you as well, so maybe a little bit later on we can go through the lions. So as I head to Buffelshoek, hoping for some spots, we are going to send you back across to Tristan.
Well, these territories are super interesting because they're a lot more fluid than people think they are. Everyone kind of, well, not everyone, but a lot of people think that leopard maps in particular, or leopard territories in particular, stay the same through their adult life, but that's not necessarily true. If you take Tingana, for example, his territory has shifted and changed and evolved and kind of adapted to what's around him. He originally comes from somewhere, we don't know where, but he ended up first being spotted coming out of kind of Ottawa area and then setting up on the very far western side of Elephant Plains and Simambili. That was where we would see him in the first few times we saw him in 2011, 2012. And he established his territory around that section. He then from there shifted slowly but surely eastwards, and for two reasons. One, Mvula started to get older and he could start pushing Mvula a little bit, and the second reason was that he started getting pushed himself by Anderson, which was a big male leopard and unfortunately hasn't been seen for a while now, so I presume that he's no longer with us. But he slowly got pushed, and his territory shifted from the far western side of Elephant Plains to the eastern side of Elephant Plains and Simambili to Arathusa, and then eventually here into Djuma. And from there, he then started to kind of really accelerate his taking over from Mvula, and ended up going as far as even in Coral, which is far to the east of where we are at the moment. And I remember one day Tingana being on the Arathusa Elephant Plains cut line, and then the next time he was seen the following morning, he was at Nkoro, and the following afternoon he was back at that cut line. So he used to use a huge territory, but slowly but surely there was pressure and movement. He then shifted and started to become really centralized to Djuma and Little Gowrie and Chitwa. Then he got sick and he was only on Chitwa for a while, and that's when Hukamuri first came in and started to move into this section. Then he bounced back and was using pretty much Djuma and Torchwood mostly, and a little bit of Buffelshoek. And now it seems like he's shifted more into Buffelshoek. So these territories of these leopards and even lions as well is very fluid. A lot of, like I say, a lot of people think that they just set up a territory and that's it, done. You know, they don't have to do anything else, but it's not quite the case. And the same applies to the lions as well. If you look at the territory maps for the Mapojos, the Majingalans, Matimbas, the Evokers, the Birminghams, which is all coalitions that have gone before over the years, you'll see how these maps just change and their territories really shift and move. And most of the lion territories, funnily enough, in these big coalitions have come north and then gone south to the Sand River and then west along the Sand River until they get to the western boundary of the Sabi Sands, which is where it stops. So a lot of the big male coalitions have done that, whereas the leopards are a little bit more kind of all over the place in their movements and how they've shifted and changed. But it's super interesting watching leopard maps and their movements and how they go about it. I was actually also talking to BK just now about the number of leopard sightings since the lockdown started, and there's basically a report that goes out once a month with the logged sightings that all the lodges within the Sabi Sands, and the guides will log sightings of the big five basically, as well as cheetah, wild dogs and ground hornbills, in order to try and figure out distributions of these animals. And normally on a normal month we'll get anywhere between about 1,200 and 1,600 leopard sightings a month in the Sabi Sands, which I know is a lot, but I mean it's a lot of multiple crossovers there, so there's a lot of lodges that will record the same sighting. But let's just use the data that we have. And last month, so March, the number of leopard sightings was 400. So it gives you an idea of how few we're seeing because of the lack of vehicles. So when there's only 2 vehicles on Djuma as opposed to the normal 5 or 6, you know, there's not as many ears, not as many eyes, not as many people tracking, there's not many trackers on foot, but it gives you an idea of how quickly your leopard sightings can dip off, even in an area with relaxed animals. It also probably has something to do with the very heavy late rains that we had in February, making life a little bit more tricky in March to spot a lot of these cats. You know, the grass is much longer than it's been in many years, and so that makes life a little bit trickier. Now, I've just come to Galago Pan. I always like coming to Galago Pan at this time of the day. It's a kind of area where often late at this time of the afternoon a leopard will come down and drink. I mean, I've had countless sightings of Tingana, Hosana, Kalamba, Tundi at this pan, so I always like to check it at this time of the day. It's a really good time to come and check here. Emma, can you just remind me of the name? Sorry, I was too busy waffling on about Galago Pan and I wasn't paying attention. Mr. Alamandras, you're asking if Tingana is moving into Buffelshoek, is Djuma pushing him? So no. Djuma, from what we have seen, has typically been to the north inside Buffelshoek, and so if he were to be pushing Tingana, you would see a reverse effect. Tingana would be heading south towards Little Gowrie, Hofmans, Arathusa, those areas. So I suspect the pushing of Tingana is directly related to Hukamuri and Mulawati. So you're finding that Hokomori's pressure is from the west and Mulawati's pressure is from the south, and that means that it's pushing him northeast into Buffelshoek and the northern parts of Torchwood. And so he probably in turn is pushing Djuma northwards. And I actually don't know when the last time there was a photograph taken of Djuma or a confirmed sighting. Unfortunately, that poor cat is always being seen, but very seldom is it actually him, because any skittish leopard seems to be named Djuma these days. But yeah, I mean, I think he's being pushed. Tingana's being pushed by Mulawati more than even Hokomori at this stage. If you look at the dam cam and the times that Mulawati's been seen there, and the fact that James had him up near the boundary the other day, I think that's where the pressure's coming from, rather than Djuma pushing him at this stage. So interesting though. Tingana obviously is getting old now, so this is what happens to older leopards. He has had a fine innings. If you think that we've been following him as a dominant male leopard for close on 10 years now, it's pretty incredible, isn't it? I mean, when he first came in, okay, it was probably late 2011, but I suppose nine years as a dominant leopard is pretty crazy. So we've been very fortunate with Tingana, and it can't last forever, unfortunately, as much as we would like it to. Okay, we're going to scratch around here. I'm hoping for little Kalamba to make an appearance in this area. And so while I do that, I'm going to send you back up north to andBeyond Ngala and see how Nicky's faring in his lion search.
So you can see it is starting to get a little bit darker now. We've pulled out the spotlight and now we're carrying on with our search, and we have moved away from the area where the lions could possibly be. So unless there's other lions that have crossed in, or if we can hear other lions, I think from this point onwards we'll probably start seeing if there's any chance of finding a leopard. Now, of course, we haven't, I think over the last 2 days, we haven't seen any fresh tracks or signs of leopard. However, I'm hoping now that the wind has died down and it's starting to, the sun is starting to fade away, that we might be very lucky. Hopefully a leopard would have crossed the road, or maybe even be lucky enough to find it up in one of the trees. There's this beautiful silhouette at the moment. So if you look at some of the big trees, you can, if there was anything on the branches, on these horizontal branches, you'll be able to see them. So we'll slowly carry on, see if there's any surprises for us this evening. But as it stands, we haven't seen anything yet, or any fresh tracks or signs. So it's basically just hoping that we could find anything as we go along. Just want to quickly switch off. I thought I might have heard some alarm calls. Might just be some birds. I would say if a leopard would have come near those cubs, you most likely would find that the mother would, or the lioness, would actually attack that leopard to try and get it away there. However, if the leopard would have found the cubs all by themselves, and let's say there's no mother lion around, there's a good chance this leopard might kill those youngsters. But then again, you don't know, maybe, oh, there's actually some giraffe. You know what, there is a road that's not too far away from here. It's quite a beautiful scene. These giraffes are stretching up this tall tree to try and get to the branches at the very top. So I just want to maneuver around to this other road here. And I'll actually see there's one just in front of us here. Just switch off the vehicle quickly. But just to finish on with that question is, so if, yeah, that's also to say, but maybe the leopard could also smell that the lioness is in the area, and because of that, it might move off in fear that the lioness might be around. So it all depends where they have been seen. I'm going to try one more view. I think it might be a bit too dark for this one, but there were two other giraffes. They were not too far from here. Let me just turn to this. Here we go. think with the infrared we might be able to see this one a little bit better. There we go. Just have a look at the size of this giraffe's eyelashes. I can imagine that thorn tree that it's feeding on now, if it's not too careful, it can easily prick out those eyes. So those eyelashes just help to protect as this giraffe maneuvers its head around the branches there. But this is so beautiful. I mean, I'm actually looking at one of the screens now. I've never seen a giraffe at night like this, especially on an infrared camera. It gives you a different perspective. But it does look like this might be a female, and how I know that is if you look at the very top of the horns, you see the very top, there's quite a lot of hair. Now often the males, so sometimes the males, whenever they fight with each other, they hit each other with their heads. It's a behavior called necking, and then often that very tip of the horns are worn down. I know, Anushka, you had a very good question about how well giraffes see at night. Now, they have probably the best eyesight in the bush. I've tried to sneak up on giraffes many times to try and see, especially on walks, if they could spot me from a distance, and it's incredible how far they're able to spot you. At night, they also have very good vision, but I don't think as well as some of the predators that are adapted for it. I think in daytime, though, their vision would probably be the best. There's some... looks like Impala moving behind us, and that's what caught this giraffe's attention. So it's just basically looking right over us at the herd of Impala behind us. But just look at the nostrils, the way she's breathing, probably trying to take in as much as she possibly can. All the smells, the wind's blowing from us towards her, so she's probably smelling. So I think we're going to leave them be and carry on, see if there's any other signs of that leopard. But while we do that, let's head across to Lauren.
I'm trying to find animals. That's what I'm up to. That's my spotlight. But so far, no eyes. I will continue talking about the territories if you don't mind. So, those maps, once again, are not probably 100% accurate. They're a reflection of the sightings. So they will change, they will move. Maybe next month they'll look completely different. We must remember that nothing in nature is static. Nothing. And the territories will continue to move. Jolly Whiskey. Ah! Jolly Whiskey, I love that name. I'm sure Davy does too. Yes, I will share them on my Instagram. My Instagram handle will pop up soon by lovely Emma, who's going to punch a button, and I will share them tonight. I will share them on my story tonight, and I'll add them to the leopard folder. So yes, please do check it out. I'll share them. And actually, I've got the lion ones as well. So it's all credit to Yvonne. I will also tag Yvonne so you can check her out. But yes, hold on 2 seconds. We have the lines. Now, the lines are fairly simple. I'm sure you can all sort of guess. I mean, the Avoca one, I'm not saying it was simple for Yvonne to do by a long shot, but it's just the Avocas. And this is the Avoca North. There's an Avoca South coalition. But the three beautiful, handsome males that we know, Darkmane, Blondie, and Mohawk, they literally rule over here. And this is their realm. You can see how much territory they have. And this just shows you how much bigger a lion's territory is in comparison to a leopard's. Now, for the prides, here, this is the last one. We have the Talamati Pride, the Nkahoma Pride, and the Torchwood Pride. Now, the Torchwood Pride are very much over on Torchwood, as you can probably guess by the name. Talamatis rarely come into Djuma, but you can see up here they do pop down. This is a northern boundary. They do cross over occasionally. And you can see the Nkahomas have really not spent that much time here since Christmas, really. They've gone down south, and I think this map is a perfect reflection of that. They cross over west and they go all the way down south towards Mala Mala more than come into Djuma. They used to spend most of the time last winter denning and, well, hunting right here. This is where our camp is, where my porcupine or pointer is pointing. So the lions one is fairly simple, but yes, the leopards one's a little bit more complicated. And hopefully, the next time we show you this map, we can have Mulwati sightings and start to gather where he's moving. I was very surprised when James had him on Buffelshoek Cutline the other day. Happy for James, but surprised, Buffelshoek Cutline, Mulwati. So his territory, I don't think any of us know. I wonder if he's a thin strip in the middle. So I think he has a bit of Buffelshoek, a bit of Djuma. He extends down south. I think he's that chunk in the middle, in between Tingana and Hukamuri. And as Tristan was mentioning, Tingana's movements are baffling me a little bit at the moment. And because we are in a transition of seasons, we're moving into winter, I do wonder if that's affecting his movements, but he seems to be pushing a lot west. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's for lady reasons. You know the boys when it comes to the ladies, or if Tingana's just trying to claim more territory, which at 14 years old would be pretty record-breaking. He's still not acting nomadic. I don't think I'll go down that route just yet. He may do as... Oh, hello. We have an elephant, but I think we'll have to go into infrared to show you. We are going to go into infrared right now, and the image will turn black and white. Hello, elephant. It may not be the best visuals we have. This looks like a youngster. Where's the rest of the herd? It's almost impossible to see. But Jess, territories are one of my favourite things to discuss at the moment. I think you can never confirm because animals keep changing. Tandy changed because she gave some to Tlalamba, and again she's changed since because she's got cubs. Sabui's movements seem to have changed since she's had cubs. So many other factors come into play when you're talking about territories. Competitors. Is Gajima affecting Tingana's movements? We don't know. Oh, Sir 50, you love these questions. Always throwing us in hot water. If I had to put money on it, who do I think would be the father of Tandy's cubs? I want to say Tingana, but that's confirmation bias. I'm speculating it could be Mulwati. I think Mulwati's a bit of a dark horse. He's a sneaker. He sneaks in. He's younger. I don't know why I'm saying Mulwati. I have absolutely no evidence, no DNA, but I'm going to go with Mulwati. Tell us, everybody. Tell us what you think. Hashtag WildEarth. Who do you think, Davi?
Tingana.
Oh, Davi's saying Tingana. Could easily be quarantine as well. We really don't know, everyone. It's just speculation, but thank you, Sir 50. And I think it's a perfect time to go over to Tristan and see exactly what he thinks.
Well, I suppose, although, I mean, I don't have any concrete proof, but I would be very, 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 very shocked and surprised if it were Tingana. Just purely because Tingana and Tandy together would be relaxed enough that somebody would have found them. And this litter and the one before, nobody even saw her mating, heard her mating, anything like that. And I mean, a mating is a loud affair and generally lots of tracks, and it attracts a lot of attention normally. And we normally find mating leopards pretty quickly. But the fact that we haven't heard anything, we haven't seen anything, we also know that when these cubs were thought to be born, they were at Chitwa. Now, I don't know the last time Tingana was down towards Chitwa Dam. So for me, my money would be on Mulwati. It also explains why she's using sort of certain areas, but it's really not possible to know for sure. I haven't been here enough either to really judge his movements, her movements, and know where these guys are spending their time these days. and so it's really just a guess, but I just don't see it being Tingana. Somebody would have seen something. You know, when they mated to produce these cubs, it was still when, you know, the lodges were busy and they were full, and yet no one saw anything, heard anything. And so for me, that generally indicates that it's a shy, kind of unrelaxed leopard that's, well, not unrelaxed, that's probably not the fair term, a non-habituated leopard in the form of Mulawati, and that's maybe why we're not seeing any sign of that process, and why I think it's potentially him. But, you know, who knows? I've been wrong in the past, probably be wrong in the future. When it comes to paternities and things like that, particularly in leopard, it's very difficult to know. What's that in the road? Is that something, or is it just a branch or a duiker? There's something walking in the road up ahead. See there, Beaker? Right on top of the hill. I don't know, it might have gone off the road now. It looked like maybe a duiker or a steenbok or something like that. Just there somewhere. Alright, let's go up and have a look. Well, it didn't have the lope of a leopard. It was too small for something like a lion, and didn't have the ears for a wild dog. So I suspect duiker, steenbok, something like that would be my guess. But let's just go and investigate. Can't believe how overgrown some of the roads are. It's unbelievable. And it doesn't look like the same place in many respects. It's just here somewhere. The grass is so long, we're gonna have to be lucky to spot whatever this is. If in fact it's even sat still. Emma, I wish it was a honey badger, but it's not. I don't see anything. It literally went off right here. I don't know. I mean, like I say, if it's a duiker or a steenbok, it could have heard us coming and run and bolted in this thicket. Oh, I can... Sounds like Emma is judging me and saying that I'm searching for an invisible friend. Alright, well, while I have a little look here and see what it was and try and figure this out, it sounds like Nikki has been successful in finding some sort of spots. I'm not sure which, but I'm sure you would want to see. And
So as we were scanning down the riverbed, we managed to find this young male leopard. So we think it's a young male. We're just trying to see. He's very relaxed around the vehicle. And there's often a male in this area called the Makoti male. So I know a lot of our viewers have heard about him and have seen him, but very beautiful young male. Also very relaxed with the vehicle being around. We just want to give it some time and see if he moves. But how amazing is this? So just judging by the area where this leopard is laying down, I can just imagine, like with all the impalas and that moving into the open areas, this leopard might have come down into the riverbed and now it's just gone and laid down on the soft sand, waiting for it to get a little bit darker before it starts moving. Jenna, I do agree, what a beautiful face. But even look at the spot pattern around the neck of this one. It looks like it has a little collar on. Just grooming itself. Now you'll often see with them when they lick their paws like that, they'll brush it through their face in order to clean up if there was any grass. Possibly if their claws were dirty from a kill earlier on, they might just use that to clean the claws, but also as they brush it through their face to clean their face. I do agree. Like, he does have a very cub-like face. I think also the angle at which we are viewing him, he does look a little bit smaller than he is, but because we are almost looking down towards him now. But he is also still very young. I mean, it's only going to be, with him, he's just close to, I think it's now 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. And it's only going to be once he gets to like 6-7 years when he's going to be fully grown and have quite a big face, very strong. You'll see he'll have, it's called the dewlap, like under his chin there's going to be this big flap of skin. So only then would he be really, really big. Now, one of the interesting things about this male is whenever he moves, often when he walks, the left leg, the foot looks like it's a little bit twisted off to the left. So whenever you track it, it looks like the left track is slightly out of line with the other one. And that's how we often, if we do track a leopard and we see that, we know it's him. Narina, I do agree. It does look a little bit thin. I wonder if he's had any, like a meal or anything over the last little while. Now, the reason why it was called the Makoti male is that, so he used to catch a lot of birds, especially when his mom left him, and his mom left him at a very young age. Also, I heard from some of the range. I wasn't here when that all happened. However, I do heard, like with the Makoti, it means that he was actually looking for vultures. And that's why they called him that particular name. But it does look like he is pretty thin, so I don't know when last he had his meal. But normally at this age, like most of his meal would consist out of probably young Impala, any scrub here that could be around, maybe some guinea fowl, franklins, anything small, like probably his size and smaller. It's amazing when we start to talk how quiet it is at the moment. There's barely any noise, no birds. There's barely any movement in the grass from some of the franklins. It's so quiet at the moment. Samantha, I can't agree with you more. This is just so special. I mean, for both myself and Owen, we're sitting here and we just can't believe how fortunate we are in order to see this. And I mean, even for everyone watching, and this is really special. Because often with leopards, in some areas I know they are pretty relaxed and you could see them, especially when you go on safari. But then there's other places where you really have to work really hard to try and find them. But we are so lucky. I mean, we were on our way back eventually to head back to the camp for some dinner, but how is this for just a little treat before we head back? And I wonder what's going to happen from here. Is he eventually going to get up? Is he going to start moving, maybe heading down the river, maybe looking for hunting opportunity? It'd be interesting to know. Like, I would love to see maybe Eric, because I know one of the other rangers that are driving tomorrow, Eric, might even come and see if there's any chance of finding this leopard again. Hopefully he's watching. you can see, very tight. And what's also amazing is that even with us being here, that this leopard is so relaxed. So I think we'll leave this leopard, maybe carry on, but I just wanted to say to everyone, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you for tomorrow's drive with Eric. Have a lovely evening.